Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for being here for this meeting of the Town Board of the Town of Carmel. Before we get started, as always, we're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. So would everybody please rise, uncover if you have a hat on, and Councilman Lombardi is going to lead us tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just ask for a moment of silence to remember all those men and women who are fighting for our freedom around the world, police officers around the world and in our community, who provide us with the blanket of freedom that we live under each and every night. Thanks.
Thank you, Frank. Okay, once again, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for being here, and thank you all at home for watching this meeting of the Town Board, Town of Carmel. Today's date is Wednesday, August 26th, 2020, and tonight we have two meetings. The first meeting is a Town Board voting meeting, and we have 10 resolutions that we'll be acting on tonight, and the second part of the meeting is a Town Board work session, and there's also 10 work session items on for tonight as well. But between meetings, we'll, at the end of the voting meeting, we'll take comments from the public if there are any this evening. So without any further ado, for the record, all Town Board members are present with us this evening, as well as our Town Clerk, Ann Spofford. Ann, thanks for being here. And Town Council, Greg Fulchetti, is over here to my left, and Jim Gilchrist is here as well. He's got an item on the agenda, and Rich Franzetti, the engineer, is here in the room somewhere as well. So the first item that we have tonight is, before I begin with the meeting, at 6 p.m. the board met in executive session with council to discuss Homeland Towers, a litigation with Homeland Towers. So we were in there at 6 p.m. and we just wrapped it up to come out here for the Town Board voting meeting. It starts at 7. So since we have two meetings tonight, I do need a resolution to open the Town Board voting meeting.
So moved.
Okay, so moved by Councilman Lombardi, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that's, voting meeting is now open. The first resolution tonight, I always like doing these. Actually, let me back up. I do need a motion to accept the Town Board minutes of July 22nd, 2020.
So moved.
So moved by Councilman Lombardi, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now back to resolution number one. This is a resolution making a probationary promotional appointment of detective in the Town of Carmel Police Department. So tonight, we're going to be promoting Police Officer Kevin Anderson, who's here with his family, his wife and children right over here. Kevin's going to be promoted to the rank of detective. So a little bit about Kevin. He comes to the Town of Carmel from the City of Beacon Police Department. He came here about 3 years ago. But he had about 1.5 years, 2 years on in the City of Beacon prior to coming to Carmel. And prior to becoming a police officer in the City of Beacon, he was a correction officer for Dutchess County for 4 years. So he's got law enforcement experience. He's an excellent police officer. He takes his job extremely seriously. And, we're happy to have him here in the Town of Carmel. So I'm very pleased and I'm very proud to hear that Kevin is recommended for the rank of detective by former Chief Kazari. Highly recommended Kevin for that promotion. So, and I know that the 2 lieutenants were involved in the process as well. So I think you guys made a great choice, the administration of the police department. Some examples of Kevin's training are bicycle patrol, marine law enforcement, the operator in the emergency response team, and field training officer. So they have a lot of trust and confidence in Officer Anderson that they made him a field training officer. What the training officer does is trains the new rookies right out of the academy. They assign them to work with Officer Anderson. So he's achieved a lot in his career, and now he's going on to the next step in his career of being a detective, and I know he's going to do great things for the Town of Carmel, and we wish him the best of luck. So before we go ahead and swear you in, Kevin, to take the oath of office as detective, we do have to read the resolution. So Councilwoman McDonough, Councilman Shannell, would you read resolution number 1, please?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, acting as Commissioner of the Police Department, hereby appoints Kevin Anderson to the position of detective. effective immediately on a promotional probationary basis, subject to the provisions of civil service law and the civil service rules and regulations. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, seconded by the rest of the board, seconded it, and roll call vote?
Yes, with pleasure.
Yes.
With pleasure, yes.
Yes, with pleasure.
Yes, with pleasure also. Motion carried. Congratulations, Officer Anderson, and you're now Detective Anderson. All right, so here's the hard part. Actually, it's the easy part. Go ahead. Somebody's got to hold the Bible. Come on over here.
Who's the little guy?
Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Kevin Anderson, do solemnly swear
I, Kevin Anderson, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the appointed position of detective
of the appointed position of detective
in and for the Town of Carmel Police Department,
in and of the town of Carmel, Police Department,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
You did that good.
Yeah.
Holding a baby and everything. So, congratulations.
Who's got the real badge on? Whatever you want.
Whatever you want to do. Up 10? Yeah, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, he wants to take a picture.
Here's the picture.
Okay. All right, so moving on, the next resolution is a resolution acknowledging the adoption of record retention and disposition schedules for New York State Archives and Records Administration. Councilwoman McDonough, would you read two, please?
So resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, upon the recommendation of Town Clerk Ann Spotford, hereby acknowledges and adopts the retention and disposition schedule of New York Local Governments Records, LGS-01, as provided by the New York State Archives and Records Administration, effective January 1st, 2021. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Lombardi. Roll call vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes, motion carried. Okay, next resolution, number 3, is a resolution for review and adoption of the Town of Carmel procurement policy. Councilman Lombardi, would you read 3, please?
Sure. Whereas Section 104B of the General Municipal Law requires the governing body of every municipality to annually review their official procurement policy for the purchase of all goods and services which are not required by law to be publicly bid. And whereas the Town Board, in conformance with the corrective action plan prepared in response to the April 2020 New York State Office of State Controller Audit Report Examination Procurement 2019 M-179, has reviewed the existing procurement policy with the Office of the Town Controller and Town Council. Now, whereas such review, the Town Board deemed that certain revisions and clarifications are both advisable and necessary at this time. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of Town of Carmel hereby adopts the procurement policy which is attached hereto and made part hereof, and designates the Town Controller's Office to distribute the policy to all department heads, as well as to distribute the New York State Controller's Office. And be it further resolved, the Town Board of Town of Carmel hereby designates the responsible purchasing agents and titles as set forth within the aforesaid policy. I offer the resolutions.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote?
Yes.
Yes, it's about time.
Aye.
Yes. Oops.
Oh,
Oops, yep.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, next resolution, number 4, is a resolution accepting donation of sick time and or vacation time by Town of Carmel Highway employees. Councilman Borelli, would you read 4?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel approves a donation of 80 hours of sick leave accruals from employee number 1699 to employee number 2791. To offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Lombardi. Roll call vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes, motion carried. Okay, next resolution, number 5, is a resolution authorizing scheduling of a public hearing on a proposed local law amending Chapter 147 of the Code of the Town of Carmel entitled Vehicles and Traffic, and the date for that public hearings will be scheduled for September 23rd, 2020. Councilman Shannon, would you read that, please?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby authorizes the scheduling of a public hearing at the Town Hall, 60 McAlpin Avenue, Mahopac, New York, 10541, on Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020, at 7 o'clock p.m., or as soon thereafter that evening as possible, on a local law amending Chapter 147 of the Code of the Town of Carmel entitled Vehicles and Traffic by amending certain schedules therein, and be it further resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized and instructed to publish and post the necessary notices in the official newspapers of the town and on the town bulletin board regarding this public hearing. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. Okay, next resolution, number 6, is a resolution authorizing additions and deletions to the active list of the Mahopac Volunteer Fire Department. Councilwoman McDonough, would you read 6?
Shall resolve that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby authorizes the addition of the following names to the active list of the Mahopac Volunteer Fire Department: Vladimir Karpa, Joseph P. Nikisher, and Ryan Kick. Be further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby authorizes the deletion of the following names to the active list of the Mahopac Volunteer Fire Department: Ashley Belkovich and Robert Lewis. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilman Lombardi. Roll call vote?
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes, motion carried. And I'd like to thank the new members and congratulate them for joining the ranks of the Mahopac Volunteer Fire Department. And the two individuals that are leaving the fire department, I'd like to thank them for their service to the community as volunteers with the Mahopac Fire Department. Thank you so much for that. Okay, next resolution, number 7, is a resolution accepting proposals pursuant to the property maintenance law. Councilman Lombardi, would you read 7?
Resolved that the Town Board of Town of Carmel, upon the recommendation of Town of Carmel Director of Code Enforcement Michael Carnazza, hereby accepts the proposal of Certified Contracting Services, Inc., Mahopac, New York, for the proposal for the cleanup and correction of town code violations existing for the property located at 105 Longdale Road, Town of Carmel Tax Map 65.14-1-24, in the amount not to exceed $400, in accordance with the proposal dated July 2nd, 2020. And be it further resolved, Town Board of Town of Carmel, upon the recommendation of Town of Carmel Director of Code Enforcement Michael Carnazza, hereby accepts the proposal of Certified Contracting Services, Inc., Mahopac, New York, for the proposal for the cleanup and correction of town code violations existing for the property located at 112 Wixon Pond Road, Town of Carmel Tax Map 65.5-1-51,
in an amount not to exceed $1,650 in accordance with the proposal of July 2nd, 2020. I offer the resolution as read.
I have a
Second.
question. Greg, can I just ask a question? Wasn't the 400 supposed to be 250?
No, it was 600, and the 600 should have been 400.
It's also as a not to exceed, so if it comes in
It
under,
was originally 650.
then it's covered.
Yeah, it was originally 650, and then it was lowered. Remember, we brought it up, and it was going to 400.
Okay.
It was brought up, it was mentioned. This was
All right, I
brought-
mean, it's up to anyway, so it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
if-
okay,
If the charge is less than it's authorized.
okay. Second,
All right, second?
yes.
Okay, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes, motion carried, thank you. Okay, next resolution, number 8, is a resolution authorizing advertising for bids for Airport Park Property Phase 3. This is the septic system contract C27. Councilman Borelli, would you read 8, please?
Resolved that pursuant to the request of Town of Carmel Director of Recreation and Parks, James R. Gilchrist, Town Clerk Ann Spofford is hereby authorized to advertise for bids for construction and installation of septic system improvements for Airport Park Phase 3 Field Improvements C270. And be it further resolved that the Director of Parks, Recreation and Parks is to furnish detailed specifications for the above to the town clerk to be used in conjunction with the town's general bid conditions and specifications. I offer this resolution as read.
I'll second it.
Seconded by
Motion
Bob.
is second.
Who seconded?
Bob,
Bob, okay. Seconded, motion by Councilman Borelli, seconded by Councilman Shano. Roll call vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
yes.
Yes, motion carried, thank you. Okay, next resolution, number 9, is a resolution authorizing the cost of planning and preliminary expenses in connection to improvements to Carmel Water District Number 2 in and for the town of Carmel, Putnam County, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $2,650,000, and authorizing the issuance of up to $2,650,000 in bonds of said town to pay for the cost thereof. Councilman Shannell, would you, I know I just read a lot, but would you read resolution number 9, please?
Whereas all conditions precedent to the financing of the object or purpose herein described, including compliance with the provisions of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, have been performed, and whereas the capital project hereinafter described has been determined to be a Type 2 action pursuant to the regulations of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, promulgated pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, the implementation of which, as proposed, the regulations provided will not result in any significant environmental effects, and whereas it is now desired to authorize the financing thereof. Now therefore be it resolved by the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, Putnam County, New York, as follows. Section 1, the cost of planning and preliminary expenses in connection with improvements of Carmel Water District Number 2 and for the Town of Carmel, Putnam County, New York, including incidental expenses related thereto, is hereby authorized at a maximum estimated cost of $2,650,000 pursuant to the General Municipal Law, Section 99, subsection D. Section 2, the plan for the financing of the aforesaid maximum estimated cost by the issuance of not exceeding $2,650,000 bonds of said town hereby authorized to be issued therefore pursuant to the provisions of the local finance law. Section 3, it is hereby determined that the period of probable usefulness of the aforesaid specific object or purpose is 5 years pursuant to subdivision 62, second of the paragraph of Section 11 of the local finance law. It is hereby further determined that the maximum maturity of the serial bonds herein authorized will not exceed 5 years. Section 4, the faith and credit of said town of Carmel, Putnam County, New York, are hereby irrevocable pledged for the payment of the principal of an interest of such bonds as the same respectively become due and payable. An annual appropriation shall be made in each year sufficient to pay the principal and interest on such bonds becoming due and payable in such year. To the extent not paid from other sources, there shall annually be levied on all taxable real property in said town a tax sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on such bonds as the same becomes due and payable. Section 5. Subject to the provisions of local finance law, the power to authorize the issuance of, to sell bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the insurance and sale of the bonds herein authorized, including renewals of such notes, is hereby delegated by the supervisor of said town, the chief fiscal officer. Such notes shall be of such terms, form, and contents, and shall be sold in such a manner as may be prescribed by said supervisor, consistent with the provisions of local finance law. Section 6. All other matters except as provided herein relating to the bonds herein authorized, including the date, denominations, maturities, and interest payment dates, within the limitations prescribed herein and in the manner of execution of same, including the consolidation with other issues, and also the ability to issue bonds with substantially level of declining annual debt service, shall be determined by the supervisor, the chief fiscal officer of such town. Such bonds shall contain substantially the recital of validity clause provided in the in Section 52 of the local finance law, and shall otherwise be in such form and content such recitals, in addition to those required by Section 51 of the local finance law, as the supervisor shall determine consistent with the provisions of the local finance law. Section 7. The validity of such bonds and bond anticipation notes may be contested only if, 1, such obligations are authorized for an object or purpose for which said town is not authorized to expend money, or 2, the provisions of law should be compiled with at the date of the publication of this resolution are not substantially complied with, and an action, suit, or proceeding contesting such validity is commenced within 20 days after the date of such publication, or 3, such obligations are authorized in violation of the provisions of the Constitution. Section 8. The resolution shall constitute a statement of official intent for purposes of Treasury Regulation Section 1.150-2. Other than as specified in this resolution, no monies are or reasonably expected to be reserved, allocated on a long-term basis, or otherwise set aside with respect to the permanent funding of the object or purpose described herein. Section 9. This resolution, which takes effect immediately, shall be published in summary form and in the official newspaper of the said town for such purpose, together with a notice of the town clerk in substantially the form provided in Section 81 of the local finance law. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, motion carried. Now, this funding is for the Hamlet of Carmel Water District Number 2 water users. This is for the improvements and upgrades to the water treatment plant up in the Hamlet of Carmel. This doesn't affect all the taxpayers of the town of Carmel. It affects the users of that district, which is Water 2. There's been many improvements and upgrades that have been proposed for that water district, and this happens to be one of them. This is for the water treatment plant. The existing plant is a diatomaceous earth plant. It's a very old water treatment plant. It's approximately 40 years old, and the plant needs to be upgraded and improved. So this funding, the $2.6 million, is for design and construction management services related to the water treatment plant. Okay, so I just want to explain that even though you're hearing a large number and it's for borrowing, for bonding, for a capital project, it doesn't affect the entire town of Carmel taxpayers. It's those users up in the Hamlet of Carmel. So, okay, so next resolution, number 10, is a resolution authorizing the cost of engineering assessment expenses in connection with improvements to the Lake Mahopac Dam in and for the town of Carmel, Putnam County, New York, at a maximum estimated cost of $100,000, and authorizing the issuance of $100,000 in bonds of said town to pay for the cost thereof. Councilwoman McDonough, would you read 10, please?
Sure. Whereas all conditions precedent to the financing of the object or purpose hereinafter described, including compliance with the provisions of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, have been performed. And whereas the capital project hereinafter described has been determined to be a Type 2 action pursuant to the regulations of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, promulgated pursuant to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, the implementation of which is proposed, the regulations provide, will not result in any significant environmental effects. And whereas it is now desired to authorize the financing thereof. Now therefore be it resolved by the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, Putnam County, New York as follows. Section 1. The cost of engineering assessment expenses in connection with improvements to the Lake Mahopac Dam in and for the Town of Carmel, Putnam County, New York, including incidental expenses related thereto, is hereby authorized at a maximum estimated cost of $100,000 pursuant to General Municipal Law, Section 99-D. Section 2. The plan for the financing at the aforesaid maximum estimated cost is by the issuance of not exceeding $100,000 bonds of said town, hereby authorized to be issued therefore pursuant to the provisions of the local finance law. Section 3. It is hereby determined that the period of probable usefulness of the aforesaid specific object is purpose is 5 years, pursuant to subdivision 62 second of paragraph A of section 11 of the local finance law. It is hereby further determined that the maximum maturity of the serial bonds herein authorized will not exceed 5 years. Section 4. The faith and credit of said town of Carmel, Putnam County, New York, are hereby irrevocably pledged for the payment of the principal of and interest on such bonds as the same respectively become due and payable. An annual appropriation shall be made in each year sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on such bonds becoming due and payable in such year. To the extent not paid from other sources, there shall annually be levied on all taxable real property in said town a tax sufficient to pay the principal of and interest on such bonds as the same become due and payable. Section 5. Subject to the provisions of the local finance law, the power to authorize the issuance of and to sell bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance and sale of the bonds herein authorized, including renewals of such notes, is hereby delegated to the super of said town, the chief fiscal officer. Such notes shall be such terms, form, and contents, and shall be sold in such manner as may be prescribed by said supervisor, consistent with the provisions of the local finance law. Section 6. All other matters except as provided herein relating to the bonds herein authorized, including the date, denominations, maturities, and interest payment dates, within the limitations prescribed herein, and the manner of execution of the same, including the consolidation with other issues, and also the ability to issue bonds with substantially level or declining annual debt service, shall be determined by the supervisor, the chief fiscal officer of such town. Such bond shall contain substantially the recital of validity clause provided for in Section 52 of the local finance law, and shall otherwise be in such form and contains such recitals, in addition to those required by Section 51 of the local finance law, as the supervisor shall determine consistent with the provisions of the local finance law. Section 7, the validity of such bonds and bond anticipation notes may be contested only if, 1, such obligations are authorized for an object or purpose for which said town is not authorized to expend money, or 2, the provisions of law which shall be complied with at the date of publication of this resolution are not substantially complied with, and an action, suit, or proceeding contesting such validity is commenced within 20 days after the date of such publication. Or 3, such obligations are authorized in violation of the provisions of the Constitution. Section 8, this resolution shall constitute a statement of official intent for purposes of Treasury regulations, Section 1.150-2. Other than is specified in this resolution, no monies are or are reasonably expected to be reserved, allocated on a long-term basis, or otherwise set aside with respect to the permanent funding of the object or purpose described herein. In Section 9, this resolution, which takes effect immediately, shall be published in summary form in the official newspaper of said town for such purpose, together with a notice of the town clerk in substantially the form provided in Section 81 of the local finance law. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilman Lombardi. Roll call vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, so that completes the town
Kenny, I
board
got one-
voting meeting agenda for this evening. Is there any residents that would like to come up?
I got one more thing I want to offer to see where it goes.
Okay.
I'm not going to use the name, and I don't know the number, but I'd like to offer a resolution to defund a position in the highway department of the gentleman that told me to go F myself during the ice and water distribution, when he said it loud enough for a local PD to hear it. He said it loud enough for the supervisor to hear it. He said it loud enough for the National Guard to hear it, which were good guys, and loud enough for my 8-year-old and 10-year-old grandchildren to hear. I think he should be fired. No seconds?
Okay, so you're offering that, Mike, as a resolution
Yeah.
to defund the position in the
Yep.
highway department for the deputy highway superintendent?
I didn't say who it was. You did.
Okay, well, we can't act on it,
I-
we can't vote on it unless we know what the funding was for.
Okay, that's what it's for.
Okay, all right. Is there,
I'm just hearing about this right now, so I would,
No, I didn't think there would be a second.
We can table it for
Yeah.
further discussion.
I'm curious how it would be if it was, happened to one of you.
I would hope it would be the
And
same.
at the next storm, it will happen to one of you because my trucks, myself, and my grandchildren won't be there. So if you find it acceptable, you take that home with you tonight.
I'm not, Mike, I'm not finding it acceptable, but I cannot
you for
vote
your
on
support.
something. I cannot vote on something that I do not have all the facts with. I have your side.
I just-
I'd like to speak with Kenny.
The facts
I'd
have
like
been
to
well-known
speak,
for over 2 weeks to everybody sitting to the right of me.
not to me.
No, never is to you.
So, okay,
Table it for further
so
discussion.
table for,
That's all. Wanted the public to hear that.
motion then to table?
Well,
Because he
it was
made-
never seconded, so
No,
it's
but
not
if
really.
you want, if you're going to table it, you need a motion.
You need a motion to table.
If you're tabling,
Yeah,
you need a motion to table.
so I'll make a motion
If
to
that's you.
table the resolution suggested by Councilman Borelli.
for discussion,
For tabling for a further time.
for at a further time, that's fine. Second.
Okay, so motion made by Councilman Lombardi, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough to table Councilman Borelli's resolution to table. Roll call vote?
Yes.
Mike?
Mike, votes to you.
Yeah, sure, we'll table it.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes. Motion was carried to table. 5-0. Okay. Okay. So that completes the agenda items for this evening's Town Board voting meeting. Is there any members of the public that would like to come up and comment on the agenda items that we covered this evening? Come on up. John?
Good evening. John Butler, and I do live in Carmel Water District number 2. So I'm one of the people that are paying for the ever-increasing bonds that are being floated for these improvements. So there's a couple of items I wanted to address. It's all in relationship to item number 9. So the latest bond issue, $2,650,000. That's for the water treatment facility. That is only for engineering and planning. Does that include actual construction and implementation of operation?
It's engineering, design, and construction management.
But it's not the
It's
actual?
not the actual construction, correct.
So what, do we have an estimate as to what the actual construction's gonna cost? Just, because we're gonna have another bond coming, I guess.
Sure.
Do we know?
Greg, can you speak to that?
Yeah, Hazen had presented the facilities plan here on the 10th of June, and I believe that the overall construction costs with land acquisition and the design that you authorized tonight was in the neighborhood of 16 million, that was estimated. And that report's available.
1.6?
1.6,
16 million?
not 6.0, 1.6.
But it doesn't make any difference, really.
A little different.
So we're talking, it's astounding. So ultimately, it'll cost 20 million for the water treatment plant. I know there's a lot of people in the past, people that are pretty smart and know what they're doing, saying that it's not necessary at all, but somewhere it got decided upon, I'm not even sure anymore where. Then we have about another 14 million and change that was bonded for the repairs of the distribution system. Then we had about 1.4 million, 1.5 million for the Everett Road tank replacement, which was originally said could be repaired. And other smart people like you said right from the very beginning, we got to replace this thing. So I don't understand how, for God knows how many months a year, it took another engineering firm to come in and say, I actually, by coincidence, was walking by when part of the team was there. I said, hey, when's this going to be fixed? I said, we're going to fix this. You can't fix this. It's going to be replaced. So this is, so just I'll finish up and say it's I don't know how many ratepayers there are in Carmel Water District Number 2, but it looks like within a relatively short period of time, in addition to the charges themselves, we're going to be paying for $40 million in bonds. So the other part of this, what I'd really like to understand is, in real dollars, what that means to each one of the ratepayers out of their own pocket each year?
Marianne, the controller did do a spreadsheet.
Okay.
John, we could get you a copy of that.
No, I don't want a copy.
She made
It leads to my next point. I'm sorry to
Okay. All
interrupt you,
right.
but
No, go ahead.
it was leading up to the point. So virtually every week, as we're walking the dogs and everyone's going around, people are coming up to me, because I'm the guy with the big mouth, and said, hey, what's going on with the water project? I don't know. I have no idea. So what my request is, and again, shouldn't have a precedent to it, but given the fact that we're going to be into this for $40 million, and it's a relatively small group of people, my request is that there be a section of the town website devoted to all of the CW2 projects, CWD2 projects. No one knows what's going on. There's no timelines. Honestly, until tonight, I didn't even, and I'm here because I didn't know what the $2,650,000 was for. That's how in the dark we are. And again, most importantly, I would love to have some clean water someday, and I would like to know when that day is going to be. Pretty simple question. So we're going to pay $40 million. At least we should be told, here's where we are, here's what needs to be done, here's when it's going to be done, here's when we're finished. That's it. That's all I have.
We'll get that done.
John, I think
Yeah.
you were present for the slideshow that was done maybe 3-4 weeks ago. I know you were
I can barely
here.
remember last week.
No, I understand, but I'm saying
believe
you
it.
were, and I think these issues were.
Oh, yeah, the
timeline-
engineering
Yeah, it was
presentations.
presented, and the
I
timeline.
totally get it. My
Yeah.
point is, people,
No, but I think
You know
having
what?
a separate section on the website is actually a very good idea.
want
But
it on the
those
website.
issues, the timelines, et cetera, were addressed in that.
I get it, but, and I know the information is there, I know it's available, there's no transparency issues, but in the pragmatic reality of our world, people ain't coming to town hall. They just can't.
Right.
And so, and I know, like I said, I know this for a fact, because people are constantly asking the questions.
And I'm not sure who said that you have a big mouth. I've never heard that.
My
I've never
wife.
heard that before.
My wife and all the members of my family have
Oh,
said that. They say that
I've-
almost on
I've
a
never
daily
heard-
basis.
I've never heard that.
Anyway, but really, this is serious.
That
the
make, no, that
information.
makes total sense to do that.
Makes sense. We'll get it on the website.
Okay,
We
thanks.
will, okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, John. Is there anybody else here for the agenda items that we voted on this evening? Come on up at this time. Okay, there being none, we're going to open up the floor to general public comment. This is the new business forum portion of the meeting where the residents can come up and comment on town-related topics. You must be a resident, taxpayer, or property owner in the town of Carmel to speak in this portion of the meeting. But let me just state this up front because I see there's a lot of folks here, and I completely understand why you're here for the Walton Drive cell tower issue that's ongoing. And we appreciate you being here, and we appreciate you being here on August 12th. And we heard from many of you that were here on the 12th, and we completely heard you, and we understand your concerns. And I want you to know that we, the town board and town council, are doing everything that we can do to mitigate the issue with the tower at that location. We're gonna try to mitigate the impacts that the tower has at that site. And we're also in discussions with the attorney for Homeland Towers with respect to relocating the tower to another location on that site. We understand that we won't be able to remove it completely from the Maple Hill condos parcel, but we can certainly attempt to do everything we can do to move it somewhere further away from where it's currently being proposed to be built. And, you know, I want you to know that I've had conversations with the president of Homeland Towers, and our counselor, Greg Fulchetti, has had conversations with the attorney, Rob Gordioso, the attorney for Homeland Towers, with respect to this matter. And Attorney Gordioso has watched the meeting. It's my understanding, but I've been told through attorneys, through counsel, that he's viewed the meeting of August 12th. So he heard your concerns as well. And we're going to continue the dialogue with them. And our hope is that we're going to come to an agreement to have them relocate that tower off from where it's currently proposed to somewhere further back away from the residential homes on Walton Drive and away from the residential homes on Summit Circle up there as well. So I just wanted to make that statement to you, so you understand that we just didn't walk away from the meeting on the 12th and do nothing. In fact, I was up there the other day with Councilman Channel. We walked the site, and in my opinion, and it's my opinion only, I'm not an engineer, but looking at the topo and looking at the contour of the property, there's no reason, in my opinion, that the tower couldn't be moved to further away from where it's currently proposed, towards the power lines, if you're familiar with the site, further towards Somers, and lower down on the site. I think that would probably be a better location for it. Obviously, some of the folks that live up in that area don't want it there at all. And I don't believe we're going to be able to accomplish that or achieve that, moving it from that site. But we could certainly work on Homeland Towers to get them to agree to move it somewhere else. So that's where we're at. If anybody would like to come up and speak, you're certainly welcome to do that, but please limit your comments to 3 minutes. I'd appreciate that. There's a lot of folks here that may want to comment, but I'm going to open up the floor to you now, if you'd like to come up and speak. There's not many people. So. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
I do have a couple questions. When was the project supposed to start?
Actually, a
The
shovel in
building
the
of it.
ground.
Yes.
I believe sometime in mid-October, towards the end of October. They can't start on that construction on that site until after that time frame.
Okay. So is that when the permit is for? Is saying that they can build after that, or what does that look like?
Is there a time frame for construction
Permit,
on
the permit issued from the building department is good for 18 months.
18
What
months?
the contractor has is the northern long-eared bat, habitat
All
restriction.
all building permits issued upstairs are
18 months.
18 months.
But that restriction prohibits the cutting at least until mid-October,
So they can't.
pending
cut- they
an
can't-
issuance of a permit by DEC, which my understanding is not going to be issued here, so that they're waiting it out.
All right, so there's regulations with the DEC that contractors can't cut trees, and because of the long, is it the long,
Northern long-eared bat. that's what it
northern
is.
long-eared bat population that may be living in that area? That may, so they're restricted by the DEC from cutting trees, clearing trees until after that date. I think it's October 15th, Greg, is it correct?
That's what I see on the DEC site, but it may be a couple weeks later as well.
Yeah, it could be later, it could be the end of October as well.
Okay. So just to follow up from a couple of things last week, we haven't heard back from some of our points, so wanted to know if we could get some clarity on that. And I'm sorry, this probably is going to run over 3 minutes, but I'll be fast.
Okay.
I believe that Ms. Hopper spoke. She asked for the data that was presented
Could you
from
just speak a
Homeland
little
Towers.
louder into that?
Yeah, she asked for the data that was presented from Homeland Towers, and that has never been delivered. I'm wondering if we can get that delivered tomorrow.
Was that under FOIL? Did you fill out a Freedom of Information law for that, to get that information, that data?
No, she came here last week, and you said that you would get her to her, and it's the first I'm hearing of 4L, so I don't know if that's what you have to do legally, but I would assume that if this lawsuit was signed off, they had to provide that to you. So is there a reason that we would have to go through the legal to get it?
Yeah, she should submit a FOIL to the town clerk for that information.
I mean, I certainly can too. It just, I wish that we knew that 2 weeks ago.
What is it that she requested, the actual settlement of the litigation, the documents?
No.
Well, it's,
I think are you referring to the coverage data?
yep.
Right, the coverage data stats.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Ann, is that something that? Oh, okay. Okay, so if you could fill out a FOIL request through the town clerk and just identify what you're requesting in the FOIL, and the clerk will search for that information for you and submit it to you.
Sure. We had a couple of questions with the engineering department too that no one's gotten back to us. So what is the legal limit for the length of the tower? Have we gotten an answer to that?
For the-
Because none of the engineers knew last
For
time.
the height of the tower?
For how far it can be from a property.
That would be from the engineering department?
Well, it was asked here last week, and two of the men here, who I believe were both engineers, didn't have the answer. They said that they would get back, but we still haven't been clear. If the tower is 140 feet tall, what is the legal limit that it has to be away from a home?
Okay. Mike Carnazza?
When I followed it, I thought it was 1.5
Yeah.
times.
1.5 times the, height. Greg, do you know?
I think it's twice the height of the tower is the zoning, our zoning code has in it. From a
So
distance.
it's twice the height of the tower is what's in the zoning code?
Okay. So I understand that you're trying to get this moved, but one of the homes is 137 feet from the tower. My home is 207 feet from the tower. Both of those are not within code. So what can we do about that situation, since that is going against the zoning permits, obviously?
Greg, I can't,
This is what we talked about before.
Right.
In terms of the specifics, I understand the question completely. That particular litigation settlement did not require the applicant to go to zoning to get a variance of those particular bulk requirements. That was the
So
the settlement that was made.
there is no, just to understand, there's no law, either state or federal, that is saying that they have to be from a certain
The
portion. That is just a MAPAC thing, that it has
the
to be 2
setback
feet or
distance
2
is
towers?
is in our zoning code.
So it's just our zoning code. It doesn't really
correct.
exist anywhere else.
Correct.
Okay. The other thing that I had a quick question about is the lawsuit before when it was over the Dixon Road and the Croton Falls. I'm just trying to understand how this one even, how the Walton Drive even got put into there. I know that you mentioned there were a lot of other sites and that you guys decided to do this, but how did that one get thrown into the ringer?
How did that particular location
Yeah.
become part of this?
So if it was about the data and the dead zones, and that was because why they were saying that they were going to the Croton Falls area, why was a location with no dead zones that this cell tower won't cover an okay location?
Okay, so that determination of that, the King's Maple Hill Estates site was completely made by Homeland Towers. They made that determination. They were looking at other sites in the town of Carmel and Mahopac. They were looking at actually multiple locations for towers.
Yep.
That just happened to be one of them that they looked at, and at some point, they approached the board for the Maple Hill Condo Association, and they had a conversation with them about it, and they must have done, I don't know this for sure, that they must have did RF testing, maybe somewhere in that area, to determine, whether or not that would be a good location for a tower. And when they did, if their analysis, indicated that it would be a good location, then that's when they approached the condo association.
Wasn't the whole reason that the tower was going up from a legal standpoint, so maybe this is a question for you. I really don't understand, that's why I'm just asking. I don't know why I should stop. I'm asking questions I don't know the answers to.
Well, in all fairness, and, the attorney had spoke to me earlier and us about this, this involved litigation in federal court, and it may continue, we may wind up in litigation. This could be something that could be used in litigation going forward. So we need to be very careful about what we say, and I can't keep referring to my attorney, because at some point, he's just going to tell me, I think he did already, that's enough. We really can't comment too much on this matter, because it did involve litigation, and to be quite honest with you, it could potentially involve further litigation. And
So
whatever
are-
we say tonight, these meetings are taped.
Yep.
So obviously, they can go back to the meeting and review the tape to see what was said. So I'm going to be very careful now what is said, and I'm not going to refer to counsel anymore to respond to any more of your questions if it involves a legal interpretation or a legal component of this whole matter.
Okay, I guess my last question is, we did have a question about the gas line that runs on that side of the property. Has anyone checked that out? We have a natural gas line behind those properties that run by the power lines. So in the second site that you are proposing, has anyone bothered to check that?
Well, we are aware that there is a gas line, a gas main that runs along where the transmission lines are. As far as, did we investigate it, or did we?
Did anyone?
look
I mean, these were kind of the things that we brought last meeting that we were hoping to have some clarity on.
Yeah.
So that's why does
Yeah, the
anyone
gas-
have it?
The gas main itself is buried underground underneath the transmission lines. It runs along the same lines as they do. And so it's not on, as far as I know, it's not on that parcel, the Maple Hill condo parcel. It's away from that. So I think your question is, would the gas main itself?
Be a
would that-
problem if we were blowing things up on top of it?
Well, you mean if you were doing test borings or something like that?
Or I was saying if you were building a tower on top of it and obviously need to
they
do
would
the
Well,
have
construction?
that would be something for the engineers to determine, whether or not that would be an issue or not, and
Are they going to? Is anyone going to go out there and get that for us? Like, is anyone going to take a
what
look at
is it?
that?
Get what?
Like, get the information regarding the gas line that's back there and what that would be and the effect if they were to build on that property?
Well, I can speak to the town building inspector, Mike Carnaz, and our engineer, Rich Franzetti, to find out from them. They certainly can reach out to the engineers that are working on this project for Homeland Towers and find out if that would be an issue. Rich, can you just make note of that? If you just write that down and follow up on that, Rich? Yes, sir. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to come up and speak regarding this matter? Come on up at this time, or any town-related matter. Yes, sir.
Hey guys, Patrick Coleman. I live on Summit Circle Drive. I only recently found out about this because one of my generous neighbors came and knocked on my door a few weeks ago before the last meeting and let me know that this was going on. Obviously, we all saw the news about the other sites that got dismissed by the planning board. We understand
Pat, just
the
speak
laws.
into the mic.
You're a little
Sorry.
closer so they hear you in home.
They want to breathe on it.
That's all right.
So obviously, we all know that having a telephone tower 137 feet from somebody's house or however far it is bad. Nobody wants that. I know you guys don't want that either for any of the residents as well. My question is, and maybe this was discussed last time, so I apologize, but why was this, out of, I guess, 3 sites that were looked at Maple Hills Estates, decided on to be the best one closest to all these homes? That was number 1.
Why was that particular site selected of the 3 sites that
Yeah.
were looked at? I don't know the answer to that.
All
I'm not going to speculate. I think I do know the answer to it, but I'm not going to speculate.
I'm guessing it was cost and ease of access, I'm assuming, for Homeland to keep their costs down. Most likely, that's 9 times out of 10 what it's going to come down to. Or maybe they can, a little bit higher up on the hill, they're able to get better reception for whoever they're servicing. I drove down there today. That was actually the first time I actually drove down to Walton because it's dead end street. I have no reason to go down there. The construction trucks, the havoc that it'll bring there for however long they're going to be doing the construction that's horrendous alone, let alone having to look outside your house and see a big tower. My property butts up to the power lines and the gas line, so that's already bad enough as it is, but I bought the home knowing that. Didn't know there was going to be a tower there too. I took a drive down to Maple Hills Estates, all the way down at the end where they have a little maintenance building in the back. I'm not sure what it's for there. That's a really nice site if they want to put one on there, and they don't even have to chop down a tree, it looks like. So why not there? That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
I think
That's the sewer treatment plant that's at the end of that service road.
yeah, I guess is whatever that
Yeah,
building is.
yeah, and again, the 3rd site, let's call that the 3rd site.
Okay.
All right, it's the elevation there, if you look at the topo of that parcel, is much lower
Correct.
than the site they selected.
Yeah.
So that tower, if they put it on site number 3, would have to be 199 feet tall. The tower that's proposed is 140 feet at site 1,
Yeah.
and it's the same elevation at site 2. So the site 1 and site 2 elevation doesn't change, site 3's does, to almost 200 feet. So,
Sorry, it's an alarm for my dog's meds. I just lost my train of thought. And I heard that there was balloon testing that went on for this site. I don't think anyone in my neighborhood ever saw it happen, and I'm pretty sure we would have. And I guess they did it sometime in the last few months. The other problem is they didn't do it in the wintertime when the leaves are down on the trees, where I could probably see it from my house, even though I'm higher up. It just seems like Homeland's muscling their way in through the FCC laws, and I know you guys are trying to fight that, so I guess what I'm getting at is that just use whatever ammo you guys can to try to get them to reconsider the positioning of that tower, and I mean, I know they probably not going to go away from that site altogether, but I think there's a better location there, and I think everyone's going to be happier. So, thank you guys for your time.
I want you to know that we're taking this very seriously. I am.
Yep.
And I can speak for the rest of the board. I believe we're in agreement. All right? We want something done with that tower. We want it moved away, further away, much further away, as far as I'm concerned, than where it's currently going. We're trying.
And I
You
think, and just to end things, so I think the lady that was up here before me, about getting the data and everything, it'd be good to know why Homeland wants this location versus, for example, I know at one point a couple years ago, they were looking to put it up on the property in the back of Mapac Golf Club and up on a hill back there where there's nothing around. Nobody would see it except for on the 15th hole when you're playing, and that's not a big deal. And so why in a residential neighborhood, that's all, and why there? When we have 4 bars all the time, so thank you.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate you coming tonight. Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Hi, Jennifer McCormick, 43 Walton Drive. I just can't wrap my head around this settlement that was agreed on. I mean, you went in there with 2 locations, Croton Falls, Dixon Hill, and you came out with Walton Drive. And who made that determination? I mean, how did we wind up getting a site plan in January for a property that was never on the table, or was on the table somewhat, I guess? But why did we agree to that settlement? I can't wrap my head around how we got thrown in at the end and why that determination was made by our town, because we approved it.
Why that location was included?
Why
in-
at the
in
settlement
In the
stage?
settlement agreement?
Yeah.
Why it was?
Why did we switch
That-
it out?
that-
Why did we switch out Croton Falls for Maple Hill?
You know, I don't know what the legal maneuvering was, or why legally, you know, in the federal litigation, how that became included in the settlement agreement. I'm not sure. It was a federal court in White Plains, and we were represented, and they included it as part of the settlement, is that they would forego constructing the tower on Croton Falls Road, and in place of that, they would construct it at the Maple Hill condo site.
Why was that more desirable?
Why is?
Why was it more desirable for our town to accept it at that point? Why didn't we just leave it at the other 2 sites? Not that I want it for them either. I can't wrap my head around this.
Right, yeah. I don't know. The attorneys may be able to answer that, and they're not going to, because of what I stated earlier. We probably better not, you know, discuss that, why it was included in the settlement agreement. You know, I believe in January, they did come to the town and at least begin discussions with respect to the Maple Hill condo site. So we were aware, the engineering department was aware that they did look at that site, and that was a location that they would consider constructing a tower on, but they never submitted an application to the town to go before the planning board at that particular site. So it was included in the settlement of the litigation in the document.
I mean, I've looked at the aerials of the different sites, and the amount of land there, especially when you look at the placement of where the tower is there's a lot more land in those other locations, at least from my point of view, than our small neighborhood. And if there's any way to kind of negotiate with them regarding the settlement to move it to another location, that's still what our street and our area wants. And I hope you can kind of still work towards that. Moving it down is better, but it's such a small area, and it's really still right on top of us. So I hope you consider that when moving forward on this.
Yeah, we're gonna keep working on this. We're not gonna stop. I'm not gonna stop. We're gonna work on this and keep pounding away at them in hopes that, you know, they're gonna listen and they're gonna move it. But that's gonna involve negotiations with the board, and hopefully we could come up with some type of an agreement.
Okay, I appreciate it.
I don't want to mislead you that we can definitely get them to agree to that, but we are going to work on them to try to get them to do that.
All right, thank you.
We'll continue that.
Thank
Okay,
you.
you're welcome. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to come up and speak? Come on up at this time. Mr. Hanrahan? How are you? Good.
My question is, why would Homeland, why would they, I believe you're sincere in your efforts, but why would Homeland want to listen to you now, after you made a settlement? Like, I don't understand why they would. And when they were on the block, and they said to one of our neighbors, we have more money, we can fight this forever. You know, they tried coming on the block like bullying. So I don't understand today. I think there has to be an alternate route to go. Maybe your lawyers go back to court and say, look, we have some push on this. And I'm not a lawyer, but I really don't think, I mean, they won already. Why would they even want to move it an inch for you? No disrespect, but, you know.
Okay. I believe there are reasons why, in good faith, they should work with us. I believe that we should work together collectively to try to, come up with a solution to this. So I think that I'm hoping that they're going to be willing to do that. There are reasons why they should, which I don't want to get into tonight, but it's my belief that hopefully they will, and we'll get them to agree to move it.
My other question is, on the other Croton Falls, was it, and Dixon, how close was the nearest residence to their proposed site? Do you know?
To the Croton Falls Road location and the Dixon Road
Yeah,
location?
weren't there those the two locations that?
There were residences that were being impacted by either one of them. Either one of those two locations, there were residential homes that,
You were 400 feet on Croton Falls and about 200-plus feet on Dixon.
200 feet away, was that?
From my memory.
for Dixon,
Dixon might have been a little closer.
Did a study on that. One was 187, and one was low 200s, and then the rest were a little bit higher, 500. That was on Croton Falls Road. So two of them were right in 225 or less area, and then the rest were, 300 to 500.
Okay.
Just as FYI, I don't mind interrupting, but I knew the answer.
Yeah, thank you.
And I had the maps at home.
So what I said, 200, exactly what I said,
Right.
200 on Dixon Road and a little over 400, 425 on the other one.
All right.
The other thing is Maple Hills Estate, when did they enter this agreement? When did they come to the table, like, with this proposed site?
They came to the town in January with, and the engineer for Homeland Towers, who's assigned to that site, who's handling it, spoke with our town engineer and indicated that that was a site that they were looking at, that they were considering. So they vetted it out somehow, whatever the process is where they look at sites and determine if this would be a good site or not. There is testing that they do to determine whether or not it would meet the RF. There's an RF frequency that towers use to communicate with, or for signal strength for cell phones. So there's some method that they use to determine that. And they did an analysis of that site to determine that would be a good location. And they came back to the engineer and said that they're looking at that site. And that was the extent of it. It never went beyond that. They never submitted an application to the planning board for further review. So it stopped at that point. So correct me if I'm wrong, Rich, after that January timeframe,
Kenny, just to go back to Mr. Hanrahan's first question, I think the board's position, without saying a great deal more with the ongoing discussions, is that Homeland would see it as a sound business decision to come to an agreement on it. That's the town's thought on it, correct? That they would see it as a sound business decision
Correct.
to come to an agreement to relocate it. That's the thrust of it. With respect to the Maple Hills Tower, the balloon test was done, I'm going to say February 20th, and there was an application that was submitted to the planning board. I want to say February 5th. It did not make it on an agenda, but there was an application submitted. So just to be clear about what was present in the planning department. It never got on an agenda. The discussions with Homeland began here in late February, and the board met with them on March 11th. So that's the timeline. Okay.
all right. Did you get all that,
Yeah,
Mr. Hanrahan?
No, I didn't hear that.
You didn't hear that?
Any of it?
What kind of engineering did the town of Carmel do? Engineering tests, or who did you have come in to look at it prior to determining that site? Like, what kind of testing did you do? You said that Homeland did some, but what was your?
Well, Homeland would be the applicant, so it would be them that is doing their study.
But this is the town of Carmel. Wouldn't you want to do something to make sure it's safe for your residences or your environment?
Unless there's if there's an application that's submitted and it's before the planning board for consideration and review, then yes, then there may be further action that might be taken at the request of the planning board. they may look into it closer, or they may request of the engineer or the planner to study it further, or review it further, but it never got to that point.
Yeah, how did that bypass the planning board? How was that? Like, just because it went to a court case, you don't have to follow the usual protocol?
That was part of the settlement agreement with Homeland and federal court.
So- So you really don't know any of the dangers that it might pose to the community, right? Just because Homeland did their own testing, the town of Carmel, for all you know, it could be detrimental for the health of the people in Carmel, right? I mean, there's no way of knowing, right? There's no tests were done by the town.
The town did not, no.
Right,
The town
correct.
did not do any testing, no.
I don't understand that. Does it not seem like it's neglectful in some, for the town, for the residents, for your neighbors, the Somas? I mean, and could you shed any light on this other thing that's going on? Or when might we know about this other thing?
That's to be determined through, I mean, discussions are ongoing with counsel for Homeland Towers, so we're waiting to hear back from them.
But there's nothing
So-
going on behind the scenes that you mentioned? It's just negotiations?
We're working on it, and without elaborating further, and I'm not going to, for the reasons I stated earlier, so I can't comment on that.
How much were they suing the town for? Like when they shot down the two initial sites, they sued the town of Carmel, right?
Well, they brought an action against the town for the denial of the approvals from the planning board and the zoning board. So they filed an Article 78. They brought it to, all right, what was filed?
They-
Rick?
They filed an action in the Southern District for
Can you hear that?
for declaratory relief to put the towers in the proposed locations. It was not a money,
It was
not a money damages. It's not money.
There was no financial,
There was, the relief that they sought was to place the towers where they had been denied, for permission to place them where they had been denied.
yeah, thanks.
Okay. Is there anybody else that would like to come up and speak on this matter? Come on up at this time. Or if you have any other town business that you'd like to discuss?
My name is Annette Romito. I've been living.
Just pull the
Can
speaker
you pull
closer.
the mic down a little
It's
closer
a
to you?
little tall.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Thank you, that's good.
That's okay.
Will that
That's
work?
good.
Lean
Yep,
into it.
that's good right there.
okay. My name is Annette Romito. I've been living in Mayapack for 46 years in the same home. My home overlooks Tea Kettle Spout Lake. So this cell tower, in addition to health reasons for all of us, I can't believe how this transpired. That's number one. I mean, it's just like a boondoggle that Homeland Towers is shoving this down our throat, and you didn't defend us, your constituents, your voters. We pay all the taxes, and every year our taxes go up. So it's a big disappointment. Now, I understand you're in a position now to try to, you're serious, and you want to make the best effort to work with them. And you should. And you need to prove to us that you're doing that. We come here 2 weeks later, and we're getting no answers, and other than you're working on it. You can tell us in another 2 weeks, we failed. Now, Croton Falls Road went to the planning board, went to the zoning board. You agreed to just give them Maple Hills Estates. You proposed 23 other sites that were part of the town property. You would have got all the stipends, and we wouldn't be sitting here in a residential area closer than any tower that was proposed on Dixon Road or Croton Falls Road. In addition, I just had a new grandchild. As Mr. Borelli said, his daughter was expecting children. I am going to babysit my grandchild. Now, my grandchild is going to be exposed to this sell noise, alarms, lights. If there's a fire up on the hill, you can't even get a fire truck down Tea Kettle Spout Road and they come to my lake and they practice in front of the lake in front of my house. It's just disconcerting what has transpired. We don't have any answers. And I sincerely hope that you work and resolve this to everyone's admiration in this room. Because we're the ones that are going to suffer. Not your children, not your grandchildren, our grandchildren. The town of Mahopac has had so much bad publicity. This is another nail in our coffin. It affects every house in Mahopac, not just our district. When people come to buy houses, they're going to look at our town and say, look at all the lawsuits they've had. Look at all the problems. I'm not going to buy a house there. I looked at surveys. They say our property values could go down up to 30% with a cell tower. So I don't want to get more excited because I get angry. I don't like being taken advantage of. I'm a fair person. I have integrity. If somebody says something to me or I commit to something, I do it. I worked in a big corporation for over 41 years, and I know how things play out. And I understand you got to do your due diligence. You can't be complacent. You cannot be lazy. You must do it. That's what you're paid for. And I would appreciate this kind of stuff not happening again. Getting this resolved. Take the appropriate actions. Just the way Croton Falls got swapped for Maple Estates out of nowhere. I had to read it in the Mahopac News. I didn't get a letter. I get more letters when there's a variance in my area. So I would appreciate it, and everybody in this room would appreciate hearing good news. Because you don't want your grandchildren, you don't want your grandchildren, you don't want your families getting an illness, a cancer, leukemia, just name it. And it's within a quarter-of-a-mile radius. It's not right at the end of Walton Drive. They're going to get the worst of it. The lights, the alarms, trucks coming during the night in case an alarm goes off. You got power lines, you got gas lines. There is so much property that it could have been placed on. And you allowed and agreed to putting it on Walton Drive when those homes are 150 feet away. It didn't make any sense. You don't have to be a college-educated person to know it was the wrong place, and you fell down on the job. I'm sorry to say that. This is our town, and it affects everyone in this town when people see bad news like this in the paper. Everybody's house. We've had enough problems in this town that have made the press, and this just is another nail in the coffin. So, I'm sorry, but you need to know how we all feel. And I've been here 46 years. I love Mahopac. I raised my children here. Every time I needed a variance, I went to the town. How many letters went out for a variance? And we get no notification. I got to read it in the Mahopac News. They're putting a cell tower across the road from my house. That was disgusting. Well, thank you. I'm sorry, but it's been building up, and every time I read something about it, I get more infuriated. We're entitled to know what the, what was I going to say? Sorry. We have no evidence on these surveys, and we can't get information. It's wrong. Everybody else got it. Why can't we get it? We need to know. Why? Why is it now this area? What's the choice? What do they see? Something is driving them to put it up there. All right, I think I said enough. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Hi, my name is Joseph Armisto. I have property on Walton Drive. I have a couple questions. You're saying this is a done deal by the federal government? Has anybody ever tried to appeal this decision? What's going on with you guys? Your county, your people are trying to get action from you. There's always an appeal. Let me ask you one question. Is it a done deal?
It was a settlement of litigation in federal court.
Excuse me, how do I get that information? Do I have to get a FOIA?
Foil, that's right.
How come it's not published in the paper? This settlement should have been published in the paper. If it's such a big deal, I mean, you're taking advantage of the people. It's not fair to us. It's not actually fair to you, because it's causing problems for everybody. I think the only way out, it's probably gonna have to be a lawsuit against them to stop it. Is it fair? No. It's gonna be costly to everybody. The town's gonna have to pay for it also. All the people are gonna pay for it. It's just not fair. And I'll be involved in it from now on. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Joe. Rob? You,
Good evening, town board members. So my name is Robert Buckley. I got some emails and some not nice messages from some of the people on Walton Drive because I had made a comment. So I want to apologize to you first, because I said in the newspaper when the settlement was made that was a win-win for Croton Falls Road and for Maple Hill Estates, because my understanding was they wanted it. They wanted it. It was a good deal for them. We didn't want it. It was a negotiated deal in court. We were happy. I didn't realize the impact of the people in the back. I went over there myself and I saw it after a few phone calls. I do hope the town board can push that cell tower as deep, far into the woods as they can. So I do feel terrible for you. So when I said it was a win-win, I didn't want you to think that I thought being right on your house was a win for us. I want you to know that.
yeah. Hey, Bob?
Yes.
Bob, can you address us?
Okay, but I just wanted to address them
Yeah,
on that
yeah.
issue. And, because I want to talk about another issue after this, but, so I just wanted to apologize to them, if you didn't mind. I mean, I think I had to give them that respect, okay? So I heard one of the gentlemen saying they wanted more information. Listen, the decision's online, and everything is in writing right here. And I'm not taking no sides here, but it said the obligation of the consent order applies to and is binding upon all parties. It said the consent order shall be deemed a type 2 action under the Environmental Quality Review Act, and a type 2 action basically says you don't have to do an environmental impact study, therefore they could just proceed, and they were given a specific time by the judge that they had to give the permit, just so you know. And if someone wants to talk to me afterwards, I'll tell you where to get this online. It's 6 pages.
I just gave the previous speaker a copy of it.
That's perfect. So somebody else can make copies of it, then you have it. That'll actually answer a lot of your questions. That's all I have to say about that. I do want to make a comment on something else, but I want to make sure they're done with this issue, if you don't mind, sir.
Okay, all right. Well, I think there's one more speaker, at least one more on this issue. Rob?
Good evening. Thank you for taking the time to listen to us once again. Obviously, we have a lot of emotional people in the neighborhood. We're just trying to get some answers. I just want to thank Mr. Buckley, actually. I admire everything that he did as well. I guess when I sent him a message, it was a little bit out of context. I basically took those quotes right from the newspaper that said, yes, it was a win-win for the town of Carmel. It was a win-win for the residents of those communities. However, we were the losers in all of this. So thank you, Mr. Buckley. And once again, I admire all your efforts in doing what you and your community did. I just have 3 quick questions. Can Maple Hills deny Homeland Towers at all? Can Maple Hills say, hey, Homeland Towers, this really doesn't look too good on us right now, and maybe the revenue isn't going to be all that great. We're going to have everybody hate us for putting this thing on. Is there something legally binding between Homeland Towers and Maple Hill Estates that says they can't walk away from this property?
I don't know.
Like
I don't
if
know the
Maple
answer to that. Yeah, I haven't seen the contract or the lease agreement.
Sure.
Between Maple Hill and Homeland.
Is there a possibility that you think that maybe, I know, of course, there's a revenue stream, and I'm sure all the residents of that community will, it'll be better, you have common dues and all that stuff. Is it something that have we ever spoken to Maple Hill Estates and possibly just threw it out there and said, do you guys really want this thing on your property? Or obviously anybody who's willing to who's getting money is going to take the deal, right? But just because of the negative publicity that this thing has, I'm just curious to know if they've ever commented on any of this, since obviously it's going on their property.
Not to us, they haven't.
Okay.
No. I'm sure they're represented by counsel, or they have an attorney.
Sure, of course.
So,
Okay.
that they may be able to comment on it through their attorney, through counsel.
Okay. Just another question. What is the absolute drop-dead thing that you think the town of Carmel can do in all of this? You guys are saying that maybe we're going to have some conversations with them and we're going to maybe push this thing back a few feet or whatever. Pushing it back a few feet really isn't going to work for us. It's really the fact that they're going to be using Walton Drive as the construction road for the construction entrance and the maintenance road and all of the construction that with regard to the tower. Like, it can't just be 100 feet, because we all know what the site looks like. You put it back another 100 feet. Obviously, this thing is in our fall zone right now because it's 130 feet from Linda's property. It's 230 feet to my property, and it's less than 200 feet to PJ and John's property. So my thing is, I don't think we can just settle for this thing just being pushed, because what I'm gathering from all of this is the fact that, we're not going to push it back substantially. We might push it back a few feet. Like, I really don't think that's going to work for us. I don't think that it's got to be a substantial move. I know that the town saved money by not going to trial, as it was quoted in the newspaper, that we saved maybe $500,000 to $600,000 in legal costs, which is a great thing. But I just feel like maybe we can spend some of that money to really build their own road to go in through a different side if we had, if we even had that option. I mean, yes, we saved all that money in legal fees, but, could we possibly can the town, I guess help, not even using a fraction of that money by maybe giving them their own road for the entrance on a separate side to the Maple Hill Estates? I mean, these are all things that we're constantly thinking about. And, you say that you saved all this money without having to go to trial, but obviously, as you guys know, and we all know, we're the losers in all of this. My third point is, what happens if October 10th comes around or October 15th comes around and we start seeing trucks start coming down our street, right? How will we be notified? Like, we're going every 2 weeks now, we're talking about stuff, and, a lot of the same questions are being brought up, and it seems like a lot of these answers are still all up in the air. Like, October 10th is around the corner. October 15th is around the corner. What happens in the event when these trucks start coming down the street? How will us in our neighborhood be notified that this is going to start? And the town of Carmel was able to do nothing about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else that would like to come up and speak? Come on up.
Linda Shaw, 53 Walton Drive.
Lean into the speaker, please, into the microphone, please.
Should I do it again? Linda Shaw, 53 Walton Drive. Everybody has pretty much said what I was going to say. You did have a permanent injunction, according to that letter of yours, July 1st, 2020, against ever putting a cell tower on the Croton Falls site, correct? It's in your letter. It says part of that settlement was to have a permanent injunction against ever doing anything
Homeland.
on,
Okay, Homeland surrendered
oh,
that
the
site.
Cassie property. That's Croton Falls, right? Why can't you do that in this case? Because whatever those numbers were that somebody back there read off, 400 feet from one house and 3 something or to my house at the end of the road, it's pretty much in my front yard. The Gandolfo house it's pretty much in their side yard. It's 100 and something. The tower is 140, so it's not even that far from the house. My house, their house. Can you do that? Can you hold this up? Can you do something like that beyond October, whatever? To give us more time, to give you more time to negotiate with Homeland? Because all I keep hearing is, well, that we called them, they didn't get back to us. So we're all saying we need some answers, some commitment, something. We need something more than coming here every week and hearing we're working on it.
So I don't know, your question is there anything that the town can do beyond October 15th?
Hold up the building permits that you signed after everybody voiced their opinions that 1 week. I believe the building permits were still signed after that, weren't they?
Yep.
Do you know the date?
The date when the building permits were issued?
Yeah.
I don't have it off the top of my head, no. I
Oh,
don't.
July. They were issued in July.
Sometime in July? Yeah, sometime in July.
July?
Building permits were issued.
So are you saying there's nothing else that you can do to kind of hold this off for a while? Until something is resolved with Homeland?
Yeah. Yeah. You want to tell her that? Okay. All right.
Should I take that as a no or a maybe?
What I was saying, I don't think that there's anything more that we can do that we're not already doing. And I didn't even want to say that because of litigation, but yeah.
Okay. I was just wondering, the other thing that I was wondering is there any one person or department that's responsible for choosing this site? I mean, is it Mr. Franzetti, the town engineer? Because it sounds like that in this letter. You know, 2 sites on the Maple Hill property were determined not as good as this one practically on my property. So who's responsible? Is there a person, a department? Did the planning board do something? There was no zoning board involvement, is that correct?
No, there was, no, not.
So you didn't have to get a variance?
Not
or-
on this, not on that site, not on the Maple Hill condo parcel, that site,
To
no.
put it that close to houses,
No.
you didn't
And-
need to
And
do
Mr.
anything.
Franzetti didn't select that site. The location of the tower on that site, on that parcel, that was made by Homeland Towers. We didn't, our engineering department did not select that site.
And I was lied to by everybody, not you people, but by people who were at the site at different times earlier this year, doing one thing or another, a test, going in with a bulldozer or whatever, and I was, and including Mr. Vicente, Homeland Towers CEO. Everybody told me and pointed way down the hill, the Somers thing. Mr. Barilli said he was told that as well. Is that what everybody's understanding was when you went to court with that it was going to be down the hill by the Somers line? Or did you know it was going to be on Walton?
You looking for an answer from all of us?
Huh?
I didn't
Yeah.
hear it.
Did you hear it?
Well, was she looking for an answer
Yeah.
from all of us?
Yeah.
all I know with Homeland Towers is they looked at a lot of pieces of property. Actually, they looked at a piece of property that a friend of mine owned and called me to tell me that. And I go, they're looking there? Right around the corner from you on Miller, off of Miller Road and Union Valley. They've looked at towers all over the town. Their criteria is coverage. And when they picked this site, like I said, I was involved with the last site, so I didn't, look at it. I couldn't vote on it. And it was told to me it's going in the back, up in the, by the power lines on the Somers border, where it wouldn't affect anybody. That's what I got.
And is this from Homeland Towers?
No,
This came from them?
No.
They said where it was going to be?
excuse me?
Was it Mr. Vicente who always said it was going to be down the hill?
No. I was speaking in a back room in the executive session, and we were just speaking amongst ourselves, and I asked Frank, and Frank thought the same thing. I says, Frank, why is Maple Grove, why is Maple Grove, I'm sorry, Maple Hills want this? He says, well, I don't know, it's going all the way in the back up by the power lines. That backs up to Somers, and no one's gonna see it. So I thought, what Bob Buckley said, that, well, if it's gonna go in the woods, everybody wins. Next thing I know, it's going next to your house.
And several others. So, okay, that's all I wanted to know. Please do something soon, please, and let us know. I mean, I need to know whether I need to try to sell my house. I wouldn't keep it from anybody that a cell tower is going in there somewhere, but I need to know what to do with my life, and I need to know soon. I don't want to live with this thing if it's going to be right across from me, even 100 feet over to the left. I'm still going to see it, and it's still going to be right there, like from here to there. So please try to do something.
Okay. Okay, is there anybody else that would like to come up?
Whoops. Hi, everybody. Jean Hopper, Mahopac. I find it very disconcerting that you have a lot of residents here asking a lot of valid questions, which they did 2 weeks ago. And I don't hear any answers from our board forthcoming. So for the last 2 weeks, was there any investigation to any of the questions that were asked at the last meeting by any members of the board?
Well, I don't know what you mean by we haven't answered any questions. I mean,
Well, I was here
the supervisor
the
said
last meeting.
he's trying to get it relocated.
Okay. I was here at the last meeting, and I believe Ms. Gandolfo referred to what I was speaking about at that time. And that was the data that was provided by Homeland Towers on why they wanted the Croton Falls site, right? So our question is, or my question is, where's the data that is now saying Croton Falls is not the right site, that Walton Drive is now the right site, Maple Hills is now the right site? And it's disconcerting to me that an answer wasn't forthcoming from the board, that you are now referring that I should FOIL that information.
Well, we
which I
answered that- we
which I
answered
will
that
absolutely
question.
do. I'm sorry?
I don't mean to interrupt you, but we answered that question. It's court, it wasn't what Homeland provided the town in terms of their needs. It was a court settlement.
No, I understand, but I think the question is, the Croton Falls site was requested by Homeland because there was data supporting that's where the cell service coverage was needed. Am I correct in that?
Right, Homeland's telling us the data is needed on every tower they put in this town.
So am I correct in my first assumption? That they provided data to back their Croton Falls request location? Yes?
Yes.
No? Frank?
Yes, I
I'm
said
sure
yes.
Well, I wasn't on the board at that time, that was last
Yeah.
year, but
Okay.
there's there's three people that have answered you yes.
Okay,
And you
so
can't-
yes.
I'm not sure
So-
if you're
so
not hearing
data
them.
was
Every
provided.
question's been answered.
No, because you referred to Ms. Gandolfo and said she needs to FOIL that information.
Well, to make it official and to make sure you have it, like, I just gave that gentleman it was a booklet. I mean, do you want us to read out of the booklet? We'll be here all night. He
I think
wanted
that-
a settlement. I had the settlement right here. I asked the attorney, it's public record, isn't it? And I handed it to him.
Okay, so is it public record on that data that was provided, that Homeland requested Croton Falls? Is that public?
It is public record. if you
Everything's
FOIL
public
for it.
record.
Okay, so why can't you answer that at a meeting when folks are here, when they've taken time out from their
We did.
day?
We did. It
You
was
told her to
answered-
FOIL it.
It was answered earlier, Gene. Gene, it was answered.
No.
It was a-
Okay.
It was asked.
I'm sorry. I am a little hard of hearing, so I want to make sure that I didn't miss it.
I spoke earlier about the FOIL process, and if somebody needed specific data, that if we have it as part of our records here, with respect to an application before any of the boards, they
Right.
can get it.
Okay.
But they just have to request it through the town clerk.
You did say that earlier, and I want to say that my point was that last week, if you look back at the recording, you told her you would provide it. So I would have foiled that 2 weeks ago and gotten that, and I didn't because you did not say that that is how it needs to happen. And if it is public information and you are able to send it, then you should just send it and stop making us jump through hoops for it. And that would be showing that you really are working with us. End of story. I'm sorry I interrupted. I know I'm supposed to.
No, I hear your frustration, and I think, I am not part of this. I don't live on Walton Road. I live closer to Croton Falls, actually. But my concern is the lack of information, that you guys had 2 weeks now to prep for these folks to come here with some answers. They're obviously very concerned. And I know, Bob, that you mentioned when these folks left that they had some really good points and some really good questions. Now, I know that you and Frank were not on the board, but you're on the board now, and you've been on the board for the last
You're
2
asking- you're
weeks.
asking me
So
about-
I'm
but you're
wondering
asking
why
me
there
about
are no
informa-
questions. Excuse me, let me finish, Frank, thanks. Why there are no questions, no answers to the questions that were asked the last meeting and again tonight. And I understand about the litigation, I get that, okay? But these are questions that you guys should be very well versed in, because there was a lot of passion and research done on the last cell tower issue. And the fact that, Ken, you've said that you've spoken to Homeland Towers, you've been on the phone with them, so have you asked them what data they're providing that shows that Walton Drive or Maple Hill Estates is better? Did you even ask whether they're going to answer you or not, but did you ask?
No, I didn't have that conversation with them. Why would I have that conversation with them, Jeannie, about coverage data, about RF frequency data? That's not what's driving this right now. What's driving the issue is the location of the tower.
Right.
The fact that the RF frequency, that they did testing on it, I don't have the answers for that. And that conversation between myself and Manny, the president of Homeland, wasn't about the frequency. It wasn't
Okay.
about coverage. It was about where they were putting the tower.
Well, doesn't that go hand in hand as to why they're choosing that location?
That you're going to have to ask them.
But I wasn't on the phone with them, and all respect, I'm not the town supervisor that was on the phone with them.
Evidently, they did testing, they did analysis of coverage with RF.
Right.
And they determined that that is a suitable site for it.
Okay, so this goes
I don't know
back
what
to...
the scientific method is or why they do certain things to
Right.
determine coverage. I don't have that, right? But that's not going to really make a difference between whether or not they're going to relocate it or whether they're not going to. I just don't know how that
Okay.
is relevant.
Well, it is relevant because that's...
I don't know how it's relevant in my conversation with Homeland Towers.
Because it goes back to the FCC, right? They're requiring this for coverage, for self-coverage. I mean, isn't that what the FCC is putting, that's their regulation, is that we need coverage for cell towers, for first responders in emergency situations. That's what that all boils down to. So I'm just wondering if they've provided the town with that. The other question I have then is, the 20-some-odd parcels the town owns, what are their reasons for rejecting those sites?
They didn't give reason. There was no reasoning given as to why they didn't.
Did you ask them that, why they're rejecting it?
No, I did not. No.
Maybe that's
They-
something you could ask on behalf of the residents. Why are you rejecting the 20-some-odd sites that of town-owned property, that the revenue could be going back to the taxpayer?
That's probably a business decision on their part, and that doesn't involve.
Well, we're
the town
assuming
of
we don't know. Could you
That-
ask?
Could I have asked why they didn't pick a certain location out of the 23 parcels
Right.
that they looked at?
Kenny?
Why they didn't select that?
I'll give you a break.
All right.
When I walked Dixon Road with people from there, I said, look at all of these properties. I mean, you should be able to cover the town with this. They ruled out every single one except a couple that border Putt Valley and Baldwin Place, down in that area. And I go, you're telling me all these properties, none of them will work? And they said, no. I asked them.
Based on what?
I didn't.
Don't work based on?
Based on what? I mean, take my day business, okay? If I had a choice and I had offered them 5 pieces of property that belonged to me, okay? I want them to come to me, because if they come to me, the money goes to everybody here. And I'm
Right.
talking as a part of the town.
Right.
So to say that we didn't try to put them on the town's 23 pieces is absurd. It's
Oh, no
nuts.
one's saying that. No one is saying that you didn't try.
Okay?
I'm
I
wondering.
asked them numerous times, and Kenny asked them too.
No, I understand
I'm
that.
the
I
one
don't-
that asked Rich to put the pieces together, and Rob Vara sat down with Kenny and said, we have to have places to put these people. Do you really think we didn't do that?
I don't think anybody's saying that, Mike. I certainly
It
didn't.
is exactly what you're saying,
No,
nicely.
no, you're misunderstanding. What I asked was, what were the reasons for them denying those 20-some-odd parcels?
Can I read their mind? If I'm talking to a high-priced lawyer and a high-priced engineer, and I'm talking, trying to sell them a piece of property that we own, and they say it doesn't work, what am I gonna do, force them? If they said it doesn't work.
So, Jeannie, I
But to
remember
think that we
once-
didn't, to think that this town did not try to push.
That's what we did. That
No.
this town did not protect.
That's not what I think.
That's
I'm just wondering
exactly
why.
what you did.
Well,
I think that people.
I tried. You can believe it if you want. You can believe it if you want. I tried.
Okay.
So,
Excuse me.
Yeah,
I think
so
I
Jeannie-
think it would just reassure everybody if you at least asked and they gave you the reason. That's
Yeah.
all. I think if, I understand this is the federal government. I think everybody understands what a hard position this is and almost an impossible battle. Let's be frank, and I think maybe that's what, folks want to hear, some forthcoming answers, some concern for their concerns, and it's just a little disheartening that they were here 2 weeks ago with these issues, and I don't see a list of answers coming back. And Mike, I do take exception. I am not accusing you folks of not showing them the 20 parcels. I never said that. So please don't insinuate that I did. My question,
we all got
excuse
that
me,
impression.
well, let's, if you listen to play it back, my question is, what were the reasons that Homeland Towers didn't accept those 20
And how could we
pieces?
possibly answer that question?
If
they say no-
If you had asked them, you might have had an answer,
I
Mike.
did ask.
Jeannie, I can.
And what was their
It
answer?
didn't work.
It didn't work.
Gee,
Okay.
It wasn't coverage. The
Okay.
coverage
Because
didn't work.
this doesn't have to do with the litigation. When we met with Homeland Towers, because the cell towers and everything, to me, it's very confusing. I don't understand all of the cell towers and the frequency and things like that. So when we did meet with them regarding all of the different properties that the town
Right.
owned, what they were explaining is that they have to put towers at certain spots, not
Right.
even in our town.
Right.
In other towns.
They
and
jump.
they
The cells
ping
jump. Mhm.
or something like that. So if there's a tower here and a tower here, the only place that it pings may be right here,
Mm-hmm.
so they have to pick that area. So just like as a little explanation, I know it's not huge and very technical.
Right.
But that's what I got from them, is that some of the properties that they could not use because it would not ping into the other cell towers
Right.
that they all get the data from.
Right.
So I don't know if that helps, but I could say
It does to a
something
certain
bec-
degree, but it still
because
doesn't
it's
answer the
not
question of how
with the
Croton Falls
lawsuit,
pinged and now
so-
it doesn't ping.
Yeah.
So, all right, I just was hoping that the town board, I know that you're hearing the concerns, and I know that you are with their best interest at heart. I certainly hope so. But I think it might be worth the town board's while to do a little bit of research so you have some more answers forthcoming next time. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else? Anyone? You came up already. All right, but,
Homeland Security, it
Uh,
doesn't work. It doesn't work in my backyard.
hold on. Hold on, before
You
you...
gotta get new legal representation. It doesn't work. It don't work in my backyard. It don't work in nobody's backyard. The Homeland Security bullying you around and we gotta suffer? Yeah. You gotta get
No.
new legal representation. This is kangaroo court, man. You gotta get new legal representation. Who's gonna come in and bully you next? What are you gonna do, dump it in the middle of town?
Is there anyone else that hasn't spoken that would like to come up? Anyone that hasn't spoken?
I just want to say, it might be the cost. Maybe these lots will work with an additional height tower. Find out research. They can put a taller tower, they solve the problem. Simple fix.
All right, is there anyone else that would like to come up and speak? Okay, all right, there being none, thank you all for being here.
I want to speak on another issue, but I want to respect everybody, make sure they're 100% done.
Is everybody that wanted to speak on the Walton Drive Tower matter finished?
I just have a question, I don't need to speak. I just want to know, we are in an email chain. When will we be hearing from you guys on next steps?
On what?
Like, do you just have to show up every 2 weeks until October? Or this is my backyard? Or are you going to say, hey, Jess, thank you for coming here. You did your research. You did everything you needed to do. You know how long the tower has to be away from your home. I didn't do the research, but I'm doing it now, and I'm gonna reach out to you and let you know where we are. How are you gonna let us know?
Greg, can we?
He doesn't wanna answer.
No, please, please, listen, I will not respond to disrespect. I'm sorry, I'm asking the council a thing. I can either ask him or not ask him. It's up to you.
And if he turns around.
Okay, I won't.
Ask him. Good, don't ask him, Susie, don't ask him. But I wanna know, everyone has been calling you, you have been on email chains. When are we gonna have some kind of transparency from the board?
You gave it best.
All right, so who would be the contact person, the point of contact from the town? So if I were to reach out from the board to your group, to the residents, who would that be? Who would that go to?
To anybody on the.
Now, Rob? All right,
Yeah, I
Rob?
have Jen.
Can
I have
Rob-
Jen's and Rob's.
Who?
I have Jen and Rob's email, I
Okay,
believe.
so, Rob, all right, so you'll be the point of contact? Sure. I'll communicate with you? And Jen? And Jess. And Jess? All right, do we have your emails and your phone numbers?
I have them too.
Okay, all right.
But I can send them again if you need them. I'm happy to send you all of my contact information tomorrow.
Okay, can you do that? Please, thank you. All right, and Rob's, I believe we have yours. And Jen, I think we have yours also. All right, so that's what we'll do. As soon as I could get some solid information and feedback and answers for you guys, I'll do that. I'll communicate with you, all three of you, all right? You're welcome. Okay. I'll let you know where we're at and how things are going. All right? Okay. All right, Mr. Buckley? Is this on cell towers?
No, it's not on cell towers.
It's not related to cell towers?
No.
Okay, all right, do you folks,
I want to make sure that they're.
okay. All right? Okay. Yeah, come on up, Bob. Come on up. Jess, do you have my email address? KS@CI? Okay, all right. Email me. All right, you're welcome.
I appreciate you answering me.
Okay. You did try, you know.
Okay, I just want to real quickly and respectfully speak to you about the potential promotion for the chief of police. I put up a Facebook post a couple weeks ago. Some of you that are on my site saw it. It was pretty overwhelming from the residents in town. I asked them, would you rather see a promotion from within the department or from outside? It was overwhelming that everybody said they would rather see from within. As a retired law enforcement officer for 28 years, I retired as a captain myself, 2 years up here. I know retired from the Carmel PD, and I strongly encourage you to do as the chief of police, Mike Kazari said when he walked out, he asked you to promote from within. The PBA and many of his members are asking that you promote from within. I know some of you are thinking about going outside. I know the Department of Human Resources in the county, Mr. Eldridge, I think he's been out sick, but whether you're going to come forward with a promotional exam or a open competitive exam. I never once saw an open competitive exam in my job. They always promoted from within. I served as the Affiliated Police Association's vice president for 10 years, and almost every department promoted from within. We have a pretty small department here. You just recently promoted a detective. A couple weeks ago, you promoted a sergeant. That's what the career ladder is about. These officers, these sergeants, these lieutenants, these detectives, they work in this town their entire life. They know the people in the civic community, they know the people in the delis, they know the people in the churches, they know the kids in the school. They really know this community. You want to have somebody that grew up in this town, worked in this town for 20 years. The men and women in the department know them, they respect them. More importantly, your chief of police knows the men and women that are working under him. I really, really think you should think hard and long before you consider going outside. All right? Like I said, growing up in this town, they've seen the good, they've seen the bad. So you bring somebody from the outside, they got a major learning curve to go. Personalities, people in the community. You know, there's talk now of a lieutenant from New York City who would like to be considered for the job. This town is a small town. There are no secrets. You might not like to hear that, but you know, somebody said, oh, if we do open competitive, we'll have 25 candidates. It'll be great. Well, out of the 25, we already know that they would like to handpick one already out of that group. We have lieutenants here. We have 2 lieutenants. Maybe one doesn't want them. Maybe you should open up to the sergeants if you don't have enough people in the pool. But you really need to consider doing it from inside. I think the civil service examination is there for a reason. The career ladder is there for a reason. And I strongly encourage you and speak to the officers, the sergeants, the lieutenants. Find out what they think. I mean, you don't want to tear this department up. Bring somebody from the outside and hope that he does a great job when you know what you have here and you know the type of people you got. And it's just my suggestion to you, and I'm just suggesting to all ears, not just one ears. And if there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. If not, that's just my recommendation, okay? Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Okay. Thank you.
So, Bob, you don't even want to see anybody that's out there? You don't even want to interview anybody?
Mike, what I'd like to see is an internal promotion.
And
Yeah.
someone that lives in the town?
I didn't say live in the town.
And
You-
how
whoa,
about-
whoa, whoa, whoa.
how
You-
about someone that's gonna
I did
stay
not
on the
say-
job for
someone
a while?
that's
No, I'm
in the
asking you a
depart- but
question
Let me
now.
answer your question.
I'm asking, let me just ask you a
Don't
question.
move off your question.
No,
Let
no,
me
no.
answer your
Bob,
question
see, that's
completely.
your problem. You won't answer the
Let me answer your
question.
question. I do not care if they live out of the town. If they work in this department for 20 years and you've allowed them to live in
Do you
Kent.
want to change?
One
No,
second.
you don't. This is
Mike,
your
you asked a question. Can I answer the question? You asked about living out of the town. If you allow them to live out of the town as a police officer, a detective, a sergeant, or a lieutenant, why would you not allow them to live out of the town as a
Would
chief?
you like the next chief to stay in his position for a while?
Would I like the next chief? I think everybody would like the next chief.
Then you know what, Bob? Unless you're in our position, I don't think you really.
No,
know
you're
what
wrong,
you-
Mike. I know that you've spoken to somebody and you think he wants to leave in 2 years because people are twisted and making him think he wants to leave. Maybe if you sat down and said, would you commit to 5 years? Maybe that person. But you would like to convince them and convince other people that they're going to leave in 2 years because it fits your agenda.
You
So
will
no,
never
Mike,
change.
you're wrong. Yeah, I do know more than you think I
You
know.
will never change.
Mike, but you asked a question. I know your question.
And you never answered it.
I did. And the person that is.
Okay, so then you're done.
You ask the person if he'll stay 3, 4, 5 years, and they will.
If you answered the question, that means you're done. Does anybody else want to speak?
So you didn't like my answer.
Bob, I love your answers.
All right, Mike, listen, you want to go at it again? Well, let me go at it with you one more time. Since earlier, you said a guy should lose his job because of cursing, right? You cursed at me.
That police department.
Well, one second.
is
We're
the
done. I'm done
best
with that.
morale
I'm
it's
done
ever
with
been
that.
since I've been
I'm
on this
done with
job.
that. I'm
Ask
done with
them.
that. I'm done. No, you.
Don't tell
you,
me to do my job.
You
ask any
I'm
cop
done with
down
that. I have one more
there.
question.
You ask
This
any
man
police
has called me
officer.
an idiot, a fool
Okay?
in the
Who up
newspaper.
here sticks
Mike,
up for them?
Mike,
Ask
Mike,
them.
Mike.
You
This
have the
man-
agenda,
now he's mad
and
because
you've
I'm calling
always
him out.
had the agenda,
He called-
and you play the political games.
called-
That's why I'm here, and you don't like it.
So this is the guy that wants somebody fired for acting inappropriate. Now, I'm a citizen in this town. All right? I seen him at Swan Cove one day. This was my salute from him. He does it all the time. This is Mike Borelli. And now we want somebody fired because they did to him what he does to other people. Shame on you.
Shame on me. Thanks, Bob. It's always a pleasure seeing you.
All right, is there anybody else would like, anybody else like to come up and speak? Come on up at this time. This is open forum, new business portion of the meeting. If not, we have to close this meeting and move on to a work session that we have tonight. Is there anyone else? Okay. All right, thank you all for being here. We'll get back to you, all right? All right, well, all right, you're welcome. All right, thank you all for being here. I need a motion to close. Close second? All right. All those in favor of closing the voting meeting? All right. Yeah. All right. Vinny or Dominic, whoever's in the studio, we're going to take 5 minutes. Can you stop the tape for 5 minutes? Mr. Montanaro? All right, thanks, Vinnie. 2 minutes? Like 2 minutes? All right, who do we need back here? Frank? Well, yeah, I want, no, not you guys, no. We're rolling. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we took a break. I apologize for that, but we're back now, live and online. So I need a motion. I need a motion to open the work session. So moved by Councilman Shannell, seconded by Councilwoman McDonough and Councilman Lombardi. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, the work session.
Move 6 up.
Okay. All right, so we're going to move 6 up. We have 10 items on the work session agenda. We're going to move 6 up. So Jim Gilchrist, the Director of Recreation, is here. And this is to consider a request to authorize Eagle Scout project. It's for a bocce ball court restoration at Sycamore Park. And the Eagle Scout candidate is Michael Horan from Boy Scout Troop 371 in Mahopac.
Sure. Michael went to the last Recreation Committee meeting.
How are you, Mike?
Reviewed his project with the Recreation Committee. They're all in favor of it. What it is it's the bocce court that's below the old basketball courts at Sycamore Park. They were built back in, the bocce court was built back in, I think, 2005, and it's in need of restoration. So originally it was built with pressure-treated wood all around it and with a clay insert. What Mike is proposing is using stone dust, which is a harder.
It's harder. Yeah.
And it's also material that will not have growth of, say, weeds or pine needles to get in there and start sprouting some pine trees. So I think it's definitely the way to go. So Mike everybody should have a hard copy of his presentation.
Yes.
So Mike's going to go over his project, his fundraising efforts that he'll be doing, and also his timeline.
Okay, Mike, take it away.
Hi, my name is Mike Horan. So I'm currently a Life Scout in Troop 371, and to reach the rank of Eagle Scout, you must complete a service project that benefits your community. So for this project, I've chosen to restore the bocce ball court at Sycamore Park. So there's 2 main steps that need to be taken for this restoration. The first step is restoring the frame of the court, and the second step is replacing the playing surface. So the first thing we need to do is replace any parts of the frame that can no longer be used, so beams that have rotted out from water damage or whatever. Once this is done, we have to set the frame back into place in parts where it's shifted. So we're going to do this by removing the metal stakes that hold in the frame and using rubber mallets to set it back to its original spot. Once this is done, we are going to install a new scoreboard where the original one is now, and once the new scoreboard is put in place, we're going to sand down the frame and treat it with a water-resistant outdoor finish to preserve the longevity of this court.
Michael, do me a favor, bring the microphone closer to you. So I already got a message from somebody that can't hear, they'd love to hear what you have to say, but they can't hear you.
All right, so the second step, is this better? The second step is going to be replacing the playing surface. So the first thing we need to do with this is remove any large debris that's still in the court, so things like leaves and sticks, anything that could get in the way. Once all the large debris is removed, we have to remove the first 2 inches of topsoil that's in the court. And once this is going to be done by hand, by shovel, and it's probably going to be the most time-consuming part of the project. So once the first 2 inches of topsoil are removed, we have to lay landscaping fabric along the surface. So the frame of the court is 9 feet by 80 feet, so we need 720 square feet of playing surface to be covered with landscaping fabric. Once this is done, we are going to start moving in the stone dust. Stone dust was chosen for a few reasons. Traditionally, bocce ball courts use either crushed oyster shells or sand, but when compacted, these are still permeable to water. And since the court's on a slope, it could cause erosion underneath the court and cause issues later on. So with stone dust, it acts more similarly to clay, and it's not as permeable to water, so water can drain out the top instead of running through it. Once the stone dust is placed into the core, we're going to spread it evenly and level it, and a ground compactor is going to be used to create a nice finished surface. So there's a few safety issues that need to be addressed for a project like this. Of course, the biggest one is COVID-19, and this is why while working, everyone's going to be wearing masks and socially distanced. We're also going to try to keep it limited to 10 to 15 people while working at any given point. So once so the second biggest issue is probably the summer heat. So heat exhaustion is a big concern, especially when working with respirators and masks. So water will be provided by me, and all scouts are trained to notice the signs and symptoms of heat exhaustion. So as a unit, we have to look out for each other. And the other biggest issue with safety is hand tools. So I'm going to give a 4 to 6 minute talk on how to use each tool before we begin work on the project. So I plan on starting this as soon as possible, preferably before winter of 2020. I looked into how much this should cost, and I've estimated that with all the tools, supplies, and materials, along with about $100 for redundancy, this should cost about $1,000 for the entirety of the project.
How much?
$1,000.
$1,000? Mm-hmm. All right, and you have some fundraisers that you have indicated here, bake sales, held at
Yes.
various locations, Red Mills, Stop and Shop, St. John's, things like that.
So the bake sale was the original idea, but I think due to COVID, I don't know if baked food is the best way to go with that. But I do want to do a candy sale, so like the big boxes of candy.
Oh, right up my alley. Yeah.
I already saved you guys a case.
Thank you, Jimmy.
And besides the candy sale, most of the other funds will be donated from troop, friends, family. And I'm also going to ask the Italian American Club and Mayapack Building Materials if they could donate anything, potentially. But I don't want to rely on this since most businesses are.
That's great.
Well, you have your first donation.
No, he wants your candy. That's all he wants.
$60.
Are you sure? Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I'll bring a case over.
Healthy food, he gets healthy food.
Case.
Oh, yeah.
Hard, healthy chocolate, I don't know if it exists.
Do you have any favorite candy?
That's a start for you.
Wait a minute, what did you give him?
I gave him 60.
I'm giving you 65.
Oh.
I don't carry cash with me.
All right. All right, there you go. You're moving right along
Thank you
there.
so much.
All I want is some chocolate.
Do you guys have any candy?
Just bring me in some,
No, I'm only joking.
just a few baked goods, not candy.
Okay, that sounds
He
good.
said he's not going to bake.
He's not baking.
All right.
Chocolate only.
Stop at Dunkin' Donuts. pick up a couple
Michael,
donuts.
this sounds really, you did a very impressive presentation here, and even this part here, your
Yeah,
written is
best of luck with
very,
it,
very
really.
nice. And I love bocce ball, too. Yeah. So you know what? Because this is a Sycamore, Jimmy, we can go play Gaga ball or Gaga pit, and now bocce ball. Because the other one was from an Eagle Scout as well, correct?
Yeah, and it'll have the same surface, that's stone dust on the inside of the,
Oh, okay.
on the inside of the Gaga pit.
Michael,
Great.
I don't know if you had gone to the Italian American Club in Bucks Hollow, but maybe 3-4 years ago, I think, Kenny, right? It was 3-4 years ago that they actually built
Yeah.
a new bocce court outside. There's a roof on it now, but if you want to go take a look, and I think they used this particular type of stone dust on it as well. So, you know, if you can, some of the old timers who were there, probably Friday nights or Saturdays, would be more than happy to answer any questions you have with regard to, you know, helping out with that as well.
Okay.
And Kenny, I was talking to Michael before and his dad, and I spoke at I think this will be your Eagle Scout number 2, correct? Yes. Because I spoke at his brother's Eagle Scout ceremony last June. And one of the things I told him at the end is to make sure that you move forward with your next, you know, the next round of Eagle Scouts. So, but, no, I mean, what you have here.
The Eagle Scout Court of Art and Ceremony we went to on Sunday, is that
Yeah,
371?
That was 271.
271.
That was Tommy, yeah, I'm gonna get to that in a minute. I'll get to that later. Tommy.
Okay, all right.
But, yeah, in fact, the one for his brother, there were 5, 7? How many Eagle Scouts did we have on that, when your son made it? 5, yeah. So, this is a great project, and,
Yeah.
I think it's great.
This is great.
Yeah.
And I
Really.
loved how you presented it. You spoke very well, all right? You covered everything, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
If there's anything you need from the town, anything else that you might need, Jimmy would be your contact person for that, all right? Because it's a recreation project, so Sycamore Park. But if there's anything that we can help you with, feel free to reach out to us.
Okay, thank you.
All right? And you're going to try to get started with this sometime in September?
Yeah, ideally as soon as possible. After this, I have one more approval to get done, and after that, I can begin work.
All right, so you think you're going to be able to complete this before the end of the year?
Yes.
Okay, all right, good. So the temperatures are going to start cooling down now? They should, so it shouldn't be as hot as it's been. So it'll be a little easier for you guys over there.
resolution? No.
But if, Jimmy, is he going to need a machine to dig the old material out?
We'll assist him with that, yeah.
Can you help him with that?
Yes.
What
yeah.
about maybe you can lend them the tools, save
Kenny?
them some money on the tools part?
Do we need a
Yeah.
resolution?
Kenny, if I may, in order to help move this thing forward quicker, make a resolution tonight that we approve the proposed Eagle Scout project from Michael Horan for the bocce ball court at Sycamore Park.
Sure, I'll second
Second.
that. I'll second that.
Second.
Oh, Greg, you taking these notes?
You going to take,
Just a couple things. The motion's being made. If you want to designate me as the clerk, I'll do the roll call vote.
You're the clerk.
Okay? But Kenny's got to designate me. Thank you. But,
you're the clerk.
okay,
You're
but,
designated.
and it's just subject to Jimmy providing insurance from the Boy Scouts of America, which they always provide prior to commencement, okay?
Right.
So I have a motion from Councilman Lombardi to authorize the project subject to the provision of proper hazard liability insurance, seconded by Councilwoman seconded by Supervisor Schmidt. Roll call vote, Councilman Channel.
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Supervisor Schmidt?
Yes. Motion carried. There you go. All right.
All right, so
we
we
just-
moved.
we
so
moved it
have-
up.
We moved
Yeah,
it
thank
up
you.
a week in your timeline.
Thank you for your time.
Plus you don't have to come back.
Best of luck with
Good
that.
luck with it.
Thanks.
We look forward to
luck,
playing
honey.
bocce ball over there. Good job. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Okay. Call me if you need anything.
Okay. Yeah, I beat you by
Beat me
$5.
by $5?
That's all I had on me.
Who carries that? I don't have.
I did,
I
yeah.
never have cash. I just went to
All
the
right, so you're on
bank.
your way.
We'll get him at
I
the
got
candy
it.
sale.
Best of luck.
Would you do us a favor?
Can I stay up here with the
Would you do us
scoreboard
a-
too?
Mike, would you do
Yeah.
us a favor?
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Just let us know when you're having any kind of fundraisers.
back to the-
Let
Oh,
us
I
know,
did it
send me
here.
an email about it or a flyer, and we'll do our best to publicize it as well.
Wait a minute.
All right.
6, Jimmy, well, Jimmy, why don't you just, let's go on to your next item. Director of Parks and Rec, consider request to accept donation of
Thank
soccer
you.
board from MSA for Airport Park. Hey, Roger. Mr. Brill, okay.
This item
Danny,
also
how are you?
was discussed at the last
Good, good. How are you,
Recreation,
student?
Recreation Committee meeting, and it was approved by the full Recreation Committee as a project to go forward. So basically what we have 2 individuals in town that have been heavily involved with sports and doing a lot of charity through the town, Scooter Hatch and also Dan Frazier. They're both heavily involved with the Airport Park. with the construction of the building that's going on out there, and also some other amenities through the park. So what I'm hoping to do is that you guys would accept this donation as it's laid out here, within memory of Mark Frazier and Rob and Betty Joe Hatch, and that we would put this under the umbrella of the volunteer work that's going on in the building. Scooter has volunteered his company's insurance for the installation of the building. I was hoping to have this as part of that project, where, for instance, we have electric that would have to go to the scoreboard. We have a electrical contractor is volunteering his services. He would provide that work, so it's, it's certified to go in. We would install it as per the manufacturer's recommendations. We would bounce it through our engineering department just to double check on that. Yeah, you've got wind loads, the size of the footing that goes in, how deep it goes. It would be very similar to what we did up at McDonough Park for the scoreboards up there. So the manufacturer will supply us with those drawings. We would bring them to the engineering department and get them approved before we install that. This would be a complete donation from Scooter and from Dan to the town. And then the rest of the installation we would deal with through the town and also through Mahopac Sports Association, whatever else, any assistance they need with that.
Okay, all right, great. So I just have one question. On the map here, on the drawing?
Yep.
So when you pull into the airport park, so this is going to be the large field on your right, the first field on your right?
Exactly.
So Scooter, the building you're putting up now is this building here,
That's correct.
right?
Yep.
So if you're at the building here, you're actually looking north? Is
Towards the
that-
field.
That's
Toward-
where
yeah.
the large field is?
Exactly.
And the board's going to go right here?
Exactly, yep.
Okay, all right, perfect. And the electric for it, you're going to run from where?
From the building.
From the building?
That's
So
correct.
you're just going to conduit? You're
It'll
gonna
come
bury-
right in that same corner where we're powering all the irrigation.
Okay, all right, so the board is going to be for this playing field?
Correct.
That's going to, and is that what we would call the varsity field?
Yes.
Or
Yep.
where the older children are playing, right, over there? Okay, all right, good.
And Jimmy, with the electric, you guys are not doing?
We have an electrician
The
that has
electrician's
volunteered his
doing it.
services,
Okay,
and that he would go in and install the electric line.
okay. I think it's great. What
I
a great
think
memory.
This is a great honor and tribute to Mark and also your parents, Scooter. I think it's nice, it's a very nice offer to donate this to the town, and I have no problem with it at all. I think this is something, we've done this before. In fact, I think we have one at Baldwin Meadows, correct?
And also
Scoreboard
at
there.
McDonough Park.
And McDonough Park.
Gee,
for Jen.
So,
Yeah.
Jimmy, just let me ask you something. What are the colors at Baldwin Meadows and McDonough Park with the scoreboards?
They're the same colors as these.
All right.
Yeah.
And
They
are you guys going
actually-
to put a
They actually use the
picture?
exact same as Baldwin Meadows.
Oh, perfect.
The company, it's the same company out of South Dakota.
Okay. I mean, they're different parks, so I guess it really doesn't matter with the consistency, but,
Well, they went back to the records and pulled the same colors.
okay, yeah, it's so pretty.
Yeah, this is very nice. I'm very pleased and I'm happy to be part of this and to indicate my support for this.
I know you're very familiar with Mark, of course, but my father was one of the original promoters of soccer in my hometown, East Aurora, New York. So it was the same as MSA soccer in 1975. So he was one of the original board members.
So that's your dad and mom?
This is your mom and dad?
Mom and dad?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, so sweet.
Yeah. No, that's great. So it's a great
Yeah.
tribute and a great honor for them.
Great work.
And we accept it. We appreciate you bringing this to us and we look forward to, so when do you think this might, have you ordered it yet or are you going to be
Not yet,
ordering
I
it?
just wanted to get here and,
Okay.
present it, and I can order it tomorrow. They call me every week, so.
They call you every week. It's like, I love it.
All right, you're gonna take care of installing it too?
Yeah.
You'll do that and follow up on it? Okay. Do we need a resolution for
Great.
this, Greg?
You do.
We
And
do.
you would do it anyway to acknowledge.
Okay,
It's
for
an-
the acknowledgement.
Can
We
we
do that tonight also?
I mean, you certainly can. I would think you probably want to do something written memorialized.
Okay.
It's entirely up to you that you guys you could do
Bob,
anything by
you good with
motion.
this?
I'm good. Yeah, it's
All right,
great,
so
thank you.
you have 4 board members here saying that we're good with it, and, so.
They can get started on it, and you can just authorize it next week.
Yeah, you can
All
order
right.
it tomorrow.
So
and
go
then-
I
ahead and
think,
order it.
yeah, only
The
because
written
I think it'd be
resolution
really
with-
nice to have a
with the
written
dedications
resolution
Yeah.
in it,
on,
as
for
a
file
memorialized,
for you guys.
document.
Yeah.
Nice. Very good.
Good,
All
thank
right.
you.
Great.
All right, great, thank you.
It's nice because Mark was a friend to, I think, all of us on the board
Yeah.
for a long time. I didn't know your parents, but it's definitely a fitting, it's
Yeah.
great.
And thank you for all you're
That's
doing
great.
over there with the building also.
Yes.
Has the steel been delivered yet? Scooter?
Coming on the 3rd.
Coming on the 3rd, okay.
Next week.
All right. Okay, started the
It's gonna be
pavers?
beautiful.
Yeah? Okay, all right. it's
All
gonna
right,
be
thanks for
beautiful.
moving us up.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, have a
you.
great
Good
night,
night.
guys.
All right, take
All right,
care.
good night. Night, Roger. All right, so where are we at? So we finished Jimmy's, so we're gonna go to number 1.
6 and 7.
Lieutenant Dearman, Carmel PD. Let me find it, here it is. All right, this is regarding an educational stipend for one of the members of the Carmel PD, David Garcia, and this is a $600 educational stipend that the officers are entitled to per the PBA collective bargaining agreement. And this is the memo from Lieutenant Dearman. I hereby request approval of a $600 education stipend per the PBA contract for David Garcia. Pierre Garcia received an associate's degree in criminal justice from Monroe College, will reach his 1-year anniversary with the PD on September 2nd, 2020. So this, if you recall, Board, we did this several weeks ago, with one of the other officers. So, yeah.
Perfect.
So, any questions, comments? It's pursuant to the PBA contract.
Nope.
We'll go with it? Good. Okay. All right, next, Rich Franzetti is here for 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 2 is to consider request to authorize change order C-261 Lake Cassie Dam rehabilitation at no cost. Rich?
Thank you. As the board is aware, the reference project, the Lake Cassie Dam rehab, is awarded to Legacy Supply. Contracts and was signed and notice to proceed were issued in July 9th. Contractor request for reallocation of bid costs along with estimates of remaining bid items to be used in the execution of the work. Stated in the contractor's attached letter, the cost reallocation represents a no-cost change order, no-cost change to the project. Additional riprap on the upstream embankment of the dam was required. It measured in 61 cubic yards in delivery tickets. The cost for the additional material is offset by the fact that fewer trees were needed to be removed. A more detailed explanation is provided by the consulting engineer, Weston and Sampson. In order to ensure appropriate time for the contractor to complete the project, we recommend that the board authorize this no-cost work change order from the proposed contract completion date would then be on or before October 7th, 2020.
Okay, great.
The key word on this memo was no cost.
Yes,
And
it's
it-
just a reallocation, so we just want to let the board know that there was a just so you know, we do this, so the bids came in with a certain amount of numbers, cost, we're reallocating it within it so that we get the project done, it gives us a better project. The project's essentially done, I don't know if you've been up to Lake Cassie, or at least Phase 1 has been done. We now have to do the next phase, which is going to be some inspections and dealing with it going forward, so.
Perfect. And I see that they're, you know, it's costing them $268, but they're not requesting that, so that's nice. Thank you. Okay. Rich, number 3.
What
Consider
item is?
request to acknowledge payments for emergency repairs services, Carmel Water Districts 2 and 12.
So this memo is presented to the board to advise them of emergency invoices submitted in payment of excess of $5,000. Carmel Water 2, there was a water main repair on July 25th. Infomark, the operators of Water 2, alerted the engineering department there was a water main break on Sunset Drive. There's an invoice for the installation of a 6-inch valve and repair in the amount of $8,518.36. Carmel Water District 12, July 28th, 2020, Infomark, the operators of Carmel 12, alerted the engineering department there was a water main break on Tommy Court. There's an invoice for Cook Excavating to excavate the main, replace the saddles, and lawn restoration at 5 and 11 Tommy Court in the amount of $6,353.63.
Okay, and I saw one was a crack in a hub connection, and I'm trying to find what the other one was. So that was the reason, Rich, for the leaks? I know it's hard with my mask on. They found a crack in the hub connection.
That was the one on Sunset, yeah, that was an odd one, you don't normally find them on the hubs like that, so yeah, and that's why they dropped the valve in there, it makes it a more efficient system then.
Okay, perfect. Anybody have any questions? Bob, Frank?
No.
Okay. Rich, the next one, number 4, consider request to award bid for engineering assessment, Lake Mahopac Dam.
So pursuant to the board resolution, the engineering department circulated requests for proposals to 13 consulting engineering firms on July 17th, 2020. The project scope is to develop an engineering assessment of the Lake Mahopac Dam as required by the July 29th, 2020 New York State DEC order on consent for the dam. The project consists of performing hydraulic modeling, inundation mapping, and confirmation of hazardous classification and spillway capacity, site survey, geotechnical explanation, testing, geotech evals, development of remedial measures, and preparation of an EA. Formal RFPs were received by the engineering department on August 17th. 3 firms, Arcadis of New York, Schnabel Engineering, and WSP, submitted proposals. The engineering department evaluated the submittals in accordance with the criteria identified in the RFP. Schnabel Engineering came in at $93,100. They had a ranking of 90.7. WSP, $96,700 with a ranking of 87.5. And Arcadis came in at $99,600 with a ranking of 83.9. We've advised the Controller's Office of this expenditure, and per the Controller's memo, they are not sufficient funds. Funds will need to be secured through bonding. Based on the evaluation and relative cost of the proposed scope of work, we recommend that the contract be awarded to Schnabel Engineering as the most responsive firm to the town's needs once funding is in place.
So Rich, out of 13 RFPs that went out, 3 responded?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Any questions? Bob, Kenny, Frank? And now Kenny, you can take over.
Oh, you want to keep going?
Nope, go ahead. You're up on number 5.
Doing such a good job.
You're doing a great job.
Yeah, get it moving.
Keep going. You want me to go back and talk to Greg?
Yeah, no.
All right, so that's
Please.
4, right?
Now that you mention it.
All right.
Please.
All right, so 5. Go ahead, Rich.
when you're
One
done.
more, I got one more.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Yeah, you have a request to authorize emergency replacement of generator at Lindy Drive Pump Station.
So during the storm event of August 4th, the genset serving standby power at the reference location, Lindy Drive Pump Station, failed. It's approximately 20 years old and determined that it's not readily repairable. The failed unit creates an emergency condition, and this department received a quote from our current genset maintenance contractor, MagPro LLC, for a replacement unit with all labor and materials to complete the install. We evaluated the quote and note the following. The proposed unit is a 20 kW Cummins diesel, and the failed unit is an Olympian 15 kW LPG unit. So we have a a gas unit being replaced by a diesel. We also looked at the New York State bid list, that there is a Generac brand that was identified there. We have both Cummins and Generac units in our various water and sewer districts and are satisfied with both. The New York State pricing has the Generac unit at $15,875 and the Cummins unit at $15,755. We contacted the state bid contractor, Better Power, who indicated that the lead time for the delivery of the Generac unit in the state bid was 8 to 10 weeks. However, the Cummins unit being shipped from Pennsylvania is 1 to 2 weeks. Based on the above, we determined that the emergency conditions exist. We therefore engaged MagPro under the terms of the submitted quote for a total price of $21,040. And there are sufficient funds in the Sewer District 2 budget for this. The memo was submitted to advise the board of the actions taken by this department. So this follows up on the email or the text I sent the board the other night with regards to when the power went out just 2 nights ago, well, last night it was, in Sewer 2, concerned about Lindy Drive. We didn't need to use it. And
Rich, can we, until we get a new generator for that pump station, I know Kenny had mentioned in that text that we have generators on trailers. Is there a place to put a generator on a trailer there? This way, if I mean, we're coming into, you know.
Well, we're gonna be
the
2 weeks
season.
out to get this one. Actually, we should only be a week out before we get this. I asked our operators, I have to see if the one we have out back here is an 80 KW, we only need 20 KW. So you're gonna have too big of a unit to be running a smaller system. So you gotta be careful
Can we
with
move it
that.
from some, can we I mean, if we need, I mean, is it possible?
We can always do it-
You should work it, figure it out. If
We'll
we
get
can
it.
move it from a different location where there's a 20 and bring this 80, just as long as there's a generator there, you know, until this one is, I mean, one of the things that, you know, Kenny, Susie, and I did that I'm most proudest of in the last
Yeah, it's
8
the
years
generators.
was, how did we have water districts that when the electricity went out, there was no water?
No water.
So, you know, Greg, remember that? So we
Yeah.
put generators at all these facilities.
In your first term, we did the generator
That was
thing.
one of
Years
the
ago,
first things we
2010,
did. We
2011.
could-
Your first term, right?
Yeah.
My first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My third term.
Whatever.
That is much appreciated.
But it was-
It's been a
Nine
real
or
big
10
help.
years ago.
I second
Your
got
second
that.
term,
I second.
your second term.
We
But
do,
anyway,
we
it
do
all-
need 2 more generators, though, I will tell you that one. Crest Road, Senior Avenue Booster Station, which feeds 10 and 13, we always have to bring our portable there. And that's something Joe Scollin has been begging for years, but we always get hit with bad budget times, because it's Water District 10 and 13, there's not a lot of budget. And Sewer District 5 does not have a generator, but when we do the design with the consent decree, we're gonna make sure that that's part of the requirement to have a
Rich,
generator
I
put
don't
in.
want any of these water districts and these pump stations not to have generators,
Mm-hmm.
no matter, just, if we need to have a couple of, you know, portable generators here in Town Hall as backups that we can bring up right away, we can't go back to, you know, 1950 type of.
No, we're good, Frank, we got them all. You guys did a good job by getting them all in here. There's just 2 areas that don't have it, and we'll make it work in the next couple of years.
If we, yeah, no, if we.
You want a budget for that for next year?
If we can budget, we'd have to increase
Well,
the
this
budget
one-
on
this
10.
one- this
5
one
is gonna
was-
have it as part of the consent
be the
order. I'm
district.
sorry, Frank.
It'll increase the
No,
district
I was gonna
budget.
say, this one here is a 21,000, and this is a 20,
20 kilowatt.
10, right, all right. I mean, you know, didn't we get some of them from surplus?
We did, yeah, but they're.
They're probably gone, right?
Those
They're-
ones- those
they're in
ones we got-
pieces, Frank.
Gainer got those.
Yeah, I remember.
There's actually, I think, one that's functioning, and we've offered it to Sycamore Park, so I think something's gonna be done with that, yeah, so we can, you know, we can all grab Jimmy next time he's here.
All right, let's just make sure that everybody has it.
All right. Rich, this number for MagPro, the 21,040, that includes the generator and the install?
Yes.
Really? Okay. All right. And one other question. You indicated here that this, during the storm event of August 4th, was that the tropical storm?
Yes.
Could this potentially have been damaged due to that storm?
No, it just failed because it was old.
Okay.
Sorry.
You know where I'm going, right?
I know where you're going. So, Rob, Aaron, and I did talk about that. We were gonna include it, then we weren't gonna include it. I don't believe we included it, but I'll double check.
So the new one is diesel, right?
Yes.
So where does it store the diesel? Is there a separate tank?
It has its own, it's
internal?
self-contained, so just,
So how long will it run on the one tank of diesel? Is it?
we didn't, I don't know that answer. I can check that.
We'll talk.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you tomorrow.
I thought you were gonna talk to Greg tonight.
Greg? No,
No,
about
I
the
was
generator.
joking, I'm joking.
Okay.
All right,
All
we're
right,
good?
are you done?
I am done. Those
Thank
were my
you,
4
Rich.
units. So,
Go.
Thanks.
Good night, Rich.
Thank you.
Yeah, Rich.
All right. All right, so we took care of 6. We took care of 7.
We're up to 8.
We're up to 8. Mike Simone, Highway Superintendent. I'll cover this for Mike. NYMER has declared our vehicle damaged in the August 4th Hurricane Isaias a total loss. Therefore, per the attached from NYMER, I'm requesting the authorization to dispose of the following. Truck 11, it's a 2000 Chevy Silverado, and the 4 last digits in the VIN are 1900. But if you look at Mike's backup, so what happened was the vehicle was in fact total. So the numbers here, if you look at the second page, go to the second page. So it's a 2000 Chevy Silverado. The cost of repair is $4,316.35. The actual vehicle cost, I think that is what is the is the Blue Book. Value of it was $4,163. Vehicle scheduled for $6,445. Not 100% sure what that means. The salvage amount was $640. So offer amount not retained, $3,163. So, so basically, the insurance company totaled the truck, and we're going to be getting paid from the insurance company for the vehicle.
Okay.
And it's less, they're going to deduct the salvage amount, which is $640. And that's what brings us to $3,163. It's the offer amount not retained. I think that's the way I read this, guys. If you interpret it any differently, just let me know. But I think that's the way I read it. So there's an amount, and then there was a salvage offer to settle. And the reason that we have to declare the vehicle as, and dispose of it. Yeah. Yeah, we're keeping it. So the town is keeping the truck minus the salvage amount, which is $640. So if you back that out from from the total of $3,973 minus the $640, that brings you to the $3,163. So that's what we're getting. We're keeping the vehicle, and we're getting that number. What's that?
THC.
Wow. All right, so we good with what the highway superintendent's requesting?
Yep.
All right, so, all right.
So Kenny, I think you missed.
Did I miss one?
Yeah, you missed number 8.
Did I?
Yeah,
Yep.
kind of. with the-
Oh, I'm sorry. All
Consider
right.
request
guide rail.
to advertise
Oh,
for
okay,
bids.
yep, you're right, Susie, thanks. I knew there's a reason why you're here.
Here, just read mine.
Hold it. Oh, all right, so I got to back up to number 8, I apologize. Highway Superintendent, it's regarding highway request for annual fall bids. I am requesting that the following items be advertised for bid: sand, guide rail, winter mix, and waste wood processing. So we do this every year, that we have to advertise for the fall bids, the fall materials that Mike needs. So we're good to going out to advertise for bids?
Yep,
Right?
I'm good.
Good? Sir. Okay, all right. Thanks, Susie. All right, so 10, consider request to waive a 30-day notice for New York State ABC Alcohol Beverage Control Law for on-site liquor license, Putnam Family House, DBA Putnam House, 983 Route 6. So this is the new restaurant that's opening up in Lake Plaza between Stop and Shop and Job Lots.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a steak and seafood restaurant that's opening there. So this is the waiver,
Requesting
which we've
truffle
done
flower
many of
flowers.
these for the liquor license waiver. And we went through the application, Greg and I did the other day, and we found it to be complete. And we're good to go with this. Any questions, comments about it?
Nope.
Nope.
Bob, Frank?
It's a new application.
It's a new applica-
application
yeah.
for a new place. There wouldn't be any issues or complaints that we would.
We wouldn't
they
even
would
have
want
any,
to-
it's a
right.
brand new, it's a
Right.
brand new restaurant. So, yep. So Greg, you'll take care of the resolution for that? All right, so that completes the work session agenda items for tonight. Since there's no one here in the meeting room at this time, I'm not even gonna ask, does anybody want to come up for agenda items? Because there's no one here to come up. And new business open forum is also waived, not waived, but there's nobody here for it. I have an announcement that the receiver of taxes asked me to make tonight, so I'll make that now.
Good night.
All right, property owners, sure people aren't going to want to hear this. Property owners will be receiving their school tax bills the first week of September. We strongly recommend either online or mail-in payment of school taxes. Please note that the building is not open to the public. You will not be able to come into the receiver of taxes office. There will be a drop box in the lobby to drop off checks and payments, and then receipts will be mailed after the payment is processed by the receiver of taxes. There will be a flyer included in your tax bill explaining the process and the different methods of payment options. If you have any further questions, please contact the Receiver of Taxes Office directly at 845-628-1500, extension 147. So this is from the Receiver of Taxes requesting that if you can, once you receive your school tax bill, you certainly can come here, but you won't be able to go into the Receiver of Taxes Office to, as you normally would, because that section of the building is not open. There'll be a drop box in the lobby for you to deposit your check and your payments in, and then a receipt will be mailed to you by the Receiver of Taxes Office indicating your payment was made. So there's different options that you can use. Rather than coming here, you could pay by credit card. But that'll be explained in the letter that you receive when you receive your tax bill in the first week in September. That'll all be indicated. But she wanted me to make this announcement tonight. Frank, you have something?
I have a couple of announcements. Number one, we were fortunate enough, Kenny and I, to attend Tommy Matta's Eagle Scout ceremony at Sycamore Park this past Saturday. If you go to Sycamore Park, you see that the Gaga Pit, which I think Susie mentioned earlier, Tommy did that as part of his Eagle Scout project. It's been an overwhelming hit at the park. Kids are using it constantly. They have to actually limit the amount of kids going in all the times from the camp. So congratulations to Tommy. Tommy's our second Eagle Scout this month. Yeah. So congratulations to him, and it was his dad's birthday the day after, so they had a very big weekend, and then the day after that, I think he went to school. So congratulations to Tommy Matta and his family, and we look forward to Michael's Eagle Scout project and his Eagle Scout ceremony as well. The other thing, Kenny, I know that we all attended the police support prayer walk in town this past Saturday. I don't know if you wanted to talk about it or not.
Go ahead.
So it was this Saturday. There were well over, and I'll tell you how I know this, there were well over 1,000 people who did attend because they had everybody register to participate, and they gave everybody wristbands, and they had a certain number in each box of wristbands that you buy. You see them at parks and whatnot. So they went through, I think, 4 boxes. I think they were $250 in a box, so they went about 1,000 people here. I spoke to some of the officers, some who were on duty, and there were several of our officers who were off duty, and they were very, very appreciative of everybody who came. They really, really appreciated the organizers of this event, Marianne Chaluzian, Nicole, Mike and Mike, who worked really, really hard to put this together for our community. We do have a great community that we live in. There's always problems, there's always issues, as you witnessed tonight, but we do have a great community. We support our police, and I think it was pretty well evident, Kenny, Susie, by Bob, with everybody who was there.
Yeah.
The color guard from New York City Police Department was unbelievable. The singer,
Neil McMahon.
Neil McMahon, we had a
He
bagpiper
sang,
here as well.
God Bless the USA.
Yeah.
Lee Greenwood.
Yeah.
Lee Greenwood song?
A U.S. Navy veteran,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, Neil McMahon, thank you,
Yeah,
Neil.
and the police were great to the people there. I saw them even, Marianne, after, she didn't want to give her speech, but she did, and she was kind of exhausted, and they actually brought her water to her chair, and, so it was really, really a great event, showed our strength, showed our appreciation for our first responders, for our law enforcement in our community. So, again, nothing is perfect, Kenny. We've all seen all kinds of things, but here in the town of Carmel, we do have a tremendous, deep respect and appreciation for our police officers, and it was evident on Sunday.
Yeah, it sure was. And the Carmel Fire Department, I want to thank
Yes,
them
yes, I
for
apologize.
bringing their ladder truck, and they hung the American flag where we had the ceremony up on East Lake Boulevard, so that really was nice, and people really liked that. It
was a great
So
day.
it went extremely well. Was it Sunday, Frank?
Sunday.
Sunday,
Sunday,
Sunday.
yeah.
So,
Sunday.
yeah, Susie was there. Bob couldn't make it because he was down
West Virginia.
in West Virginia?
Dropped my son off at
Dropping his
college.
son off at college. Otherwise, I know Bob, being
I
a
would've
retired
definitely been
police
there.
officer, would have been
Absolutely.
there. Yeah, so, but it really went over well. So, thank you, everybody, all the organizers. You did a great job, and we really appreciate that. So, thank you so much. Susie, do you have any announcements? Bob?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right, so we don't have executive session. We're going to close the meeting from
Move to
here.
adjourn.
Yeah. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everyone. Be well. We'll see you here next week? What's the date, Greg? Yeah, the 2nd, right? September 2nd? All right, September 2nd for voting meeting. Vinny, we're all set. Vin, you can shut it down. Good night.